Hi, everybody. Don't dim the screen. Okay. Hi, everybody. How's it going? Quick, before I go into, my little intro, let me just go ahead and say I'm using a different mic this time, so let me know at any point if the volume levels are a little weird, and I will try to adjust. But hey, we've got a new layout. We've got some nice little short stories ahead of us. And let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about what we'll be doing today from my lovely little scripted blurbs that I have written out for each thing. So, today we will be diving into some extra canon material for Umineko, published originally across multiple different sources, of which I have notes for each, all between and during the releases of episodes 1 through 4. This is my personal selection of the ones I find most interesting or important, though there are other fluffier side stories that were published around this time too. I've elected not to include all of them for either reasons of keeping this stream at a reasonable length. It'll probably be a shorter one today. And some of them just kind of suck and have truly obnoxious episode 1 tier anime humor in them, and I still want to be done with that. If you want to seek them out on your own, feel free, but please be wary of potential spoilers if you go searching. Sharks do indeed be lurking in those waters. All of these, barring one, have been republished in this Japanese exclusive port for Nintendo Switch and PS4 titled Umineko no Nakokoro ni Saku, Symphony of Catbox and Dreams. The way I'll be playing this today is through a very normal Switch console that I own, as well as an English fan patch painstakingly assembled by And Olga over on GitHub. I'll name some other important contributors once we get around to wrap-up time. But for now, let's get into our first feature. Forgive the screen blurring, but this port is not shy about waving its spoilers around here and there, so I will try to shield your eyes when necessary. Important Facts Concerning Magic was originally released as part of an Umineko guidebook called the Truth Explaining Guidebook, or Shinso Kaimei Dokuhon, which had a new edition for each new episode. This was part of the second volume released on June 19th, 2008, and was republished in the Umineko short story collection The First and the Last Gift on December 16th, 2015. As with all guidebooks mentioned in this stream, it was Japanese exclusive. However, it was officially put into visual novel format for the first time in this port, released on January 28th of 2021. A note from Beatrice to Witch Apprentices. We should be thankful for every day we live, no matter how trivial they may seem. After all, that in itself is a miracle. Just a heads up, by the way. So, as you probably have gathered from looking at my footage while I've been playing the Umineko Project version, the lip syncing on the sprites is still on even when you have the voices off, so it actually kind of fits my voice acting pretty well sometimes. But unfortunately, when you turn the voices off in this Switch version, it automatically turns the lips off too, so they're just going to be static sprites during this particular stream. Just so you know, there's nothing wrong with it, that's just how it is. To my beloved magic apprentice, important points about magic. To my beloved Maria, for someone studying magic, it is crucial to know that magic usage requires the correct mind frame. For you who yearns to be a witch, you should know that magic is essentially the power of yearning. Learn this as soon as possible, as I believe that you may want to show your magic off a bit to someone. However, magic is the sole element with a power deep enough to quench all ignorance in the world. Both paying utmost respect to magic and having a suitable mind frame for it will be necessary. While having the impure desire to show off your magic to someone, the mysterious power behind your magic will never show. In no way is magic something like doing some petty sleight of hand that you don't usually see. Pray, Maria, that you may respect magic. I pray from the depths of my heart that you take the first step as a witch with the right mind frame. Beatrice the Golden. Do remember, Maria, you must never forget the thankful feelings that magic is comprised of. Even as someone like me, who is at the peak of wickedness, you must never forget these feelings.
Thankful?
That's right. In this world, with the multitudes upon multitudes of people who are begging for a miracle, magic is what can make them come true. There are no witches who exercise magic. Witches exercise miracles for those who pray for them. Perhaps consider when people would pray for rain. All of those people suffering from a drought would beg to the heavens for rain, and what results is rain pouring down. That's because their prayers arrived in heaven, so rain was sure to begin to fall.
If the wish didn't arrive, would even Beato not be able to use magic?
Theoretically speaking, yes. But wondering about whether or not a wish would arrive is an apprentice-level worry. When you reach my level, wishes will always arrive. A wish that is sure to come true can no longer be called a wish. Therefore, it's called magic.
I'm thankful. If rain fell on swimming lesson day, I'd be brimming with thankfulness.
Nora-san, thanks for becoming a channel member. That's right. Let me spare you a bit of trouble for the sake of your own goal. You must never forget these thankful feelings, no matter what manner of power you are given. For example, you might pray so that rain interrupts your swimming lessons. The sky gets cloudy, and little raindrops might start pattering. But suppose the interruption doesn't happen. At that point, you must not be disappointed. Because even though you wanted the class cancelled, that's not what you asked of heaven. Heavens only respond to your wish of making it rain. Heavens have only responded to your wish of making it rain. If that were to disappoint you, that would be greatly disrespectful. With those kinds of feelings, the heavens may never lend you their power again.
But if I get to be like Beato, could I cause a downpour or call upon a typhoon right now?
Of course that's possible. Surrounding this island is a typhoon, and separating it from the rest of the world would be quite easy.
Show me! Show me! Call a typhoon right now! And then the boat trip will get canceled, and Maria can get away with not going to school tomorrow.
Maria, those feelings are quite disrespectful. The greater the magic, the larger the power you will be borrowing from the great ones. This requires a proportional amount of respect. Doing something as great as calling up a typhoon just for the fun of it is not appropriate for a witch.
Oh, sorry.
We witches must not forget that the name magic itself is disrespectful in nature. That is because in this world full of all kinds of power and phenomena, a miracle is bound to happen. And yet, these miracles are usually taken for granted. For example, people feel thankful to get up every morning of every day, right? No one is actually that grateful. However, this is a huge miracle. Heaven's love for us is probably massive, so much that consequently every morning they naturally shine their sun on us. But this has never been something that should be taken for granted. If at any point Heaven's affection for humanity would burn out, so too would the sun. Every single day until today, there has been no guarantee that the sun will rise again tomorrow. We witches do not make light of this. Every morning I am thankful for the fact that the same sun from yesterday rose again. The fact that I am able to accept these warm days is a blessing that I am thankful for. And then, occasionally, to let the daily cycles be rewarded in rest, I'll ask for a solar eclipse. The sun has never slept once. Every being and every phenomenon in the world must all be thankful to it. An apple falling from a tree is thanks to gravity. If there were no gravity, we would likely not be able to continue walking. The fact that the ocean is full, the fact that wind blows, the fact that fire raises, whichever trivial thing, we should all be thankful, for it is a great miracle. In essence, all miracles would die out without these thankful feelings. When you think about it this way, can you understand why magic being called that way is disrespectful? There are no witches who exercise magic. Witches wish, receive, and give thanks. Citrine Rain with the Canadian $2. Happy birthday, chat. Happy birthday, chat. It's always your birthday around here. And this is your gift. Forget those feelings, and the ability to perform magic will forever be out of reach. In the end, everything in this world is a miracle. When humans called it a phenomenon caused by a mechanical reaction, magical powers suddenly began disappearing. For instance, when a cow gives milk, you should be thankful for the miracle. Since they were cared for, It's expected that they would provide the miracle of rewarding their owners with milk. Nevertheless, humanity instead forgets their thanks to cows, constantly breeds them mechanically, and treats this milk-producing machine as a phenomenon. And thus the cows lose their magic and the miracle lying within them is killed. This sort of thing is done to all creations everywhere. One by one, each miracle ends up being killed. No, kill is not the correct word to use here. To say they are rejected is much more appropriate. Humans are incapable of killing or erasing miracles. At best, they can reject them, just pretend they don't exist. And even though humans act like there is no miracle in this world, it does not negate their existence. This world is overflowing with miracles. This truth alone will never change. Nonetheless, the issue with today's world is that humans are too great at that sort of power. Their ability to cause the decline of the power of miracles with phenomena is too excellent. They became an overwhelming majority as they started to hunt miracles full force. They made it their life's purpose to explain every miracle they could, pouring their own blood, sweat, and tears into causing their decline. This is truly the age of the witch hunt. Both the power of miracles and the ones who governed them began to hate and avoid humans. And at last, humans have become able to repel miracles using their body odor like the smelly pigs they are. Where humans exist, the power of miracles disappears. The existence of witches is denied. And since they swagger all over the place in groups, the amount of places where magic can be used is constantly decreasing. For that reason, we hid away from human eyes and were forced to flee to far-off places. And now this remote island, where so few people live, is where I have taken residence. Now it is essential to hide our magic powers from human eyes. We cannot show miracles to humans. Humans themselves reject and deny magic, just through their existence. When I try to show them a miracle through magic, it causes it to dispel right in front of me. Yo, Nurasad with the SAR 500. Got to your channel from DR. DR Analysis stayed for everything. Thank you for your work and VA work and all the entertainment you provide for us. Oh, SAR Saudi Arabian Reals. Thank you for the clarification. I hate that YouTube doesn't just like tell you specifically, instead just like doing the fucking like abbreviation, but thank you so much. That's so generous of you. I appreciate it. NBPAL, the reason that we are on different versions is because these short stories are not included in any of the PC versions. Or I mean, some of them are included in Umineko Tsubasa, which is on PC, but that only has the original graphics and has never been officially published in English. So, we are using a fan patch of the Switch version to get this stuff. Having your powers stolen by humans, even just being around, having your magic dispelled like that, what humiliation. So I've decided that even if I cannot show my magic, it isn't impossible to acknowledge me as a witch. If I can't show my magic and prove that I'm a witch, I'll accomplish something only possible through magic, so that they won't have a choice but to acknowledge me. I will deny all possible explanations through phenomena. This will no doubt be a daunting and difficult task. However, this devil's proof is surely the right way to prove my existence. No, I'll call it a witch's proof, since that fits me better. Kat Rooney, thanks for becoming a channel member. Time is eternal. I'll repeat it as many times as it takes to make these foolish humans succumb to me. This is the eternal torture I will impose on them. It will be an appropriate punishment for desecrating miracles. Well, well, well. Interesting stuff. But we have to move on to our second thing. And funnily enough, I actually have to switch off the switch port for a second because this one, well, you'll see from the little introduction that I have to read off here. Allow me to briefly turn off the sound as well. Okay. Yeah, you guys can't hear it anymore. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. I will now play my own music. But, and let me switch to the window that I want to show. Here we go. Okay, okay. Anti-mystery versus anti-fantasy is the only feature today that does not have a visual novel port. Thus, I will read it directly from a translation provided on the 07th expansion wiki. It was included in a booklet released alongside Episode 3 at Comiket 74 on August 16th of 2008, and mostly serves as a commentary about the nature of Umineko's mystery storytelling by author Ryukishi07 himself, with additional snippets from Beatrice and Ronove. This translation is provided by Belladonna Lee of the original Witch Hunters group. Let me turn down the sound a little bit, actually. Okay. This time around, the tagline for Episode 3 has changed from deducible, not deducible, to anti-fantasy versus anti-mystery. Those who have finished reading Episode 3 might already understand that the world of Umineko is precisely as the tagline says. Although everyone has heard of mystery and fantasy, you might not have heard of anti-mystery or anti-fantasy. What does it mean by anti? Please allow me to explain. The meaning of anti-fantasy is as the words say. Fantastic phenomena cannot exist in the world we live in. Those dream-like fairy tales are nothing more than fiction. Even if someone believes in their existence, it's really nothing more than an exaggerating, politically inclined delusion. Do you truly believe that Earth was created by the Creator in 7 days? Do you believe that Izanagi used a spear to dig up the first island of Japanese archipelago? Impossible. The Big Bang, collision between asteroids, movements of landmass, using these theories to explain how lands are formed is the plausible way to go. To those people who love to talk about scientific theories in Japanese history or world history classes, I would like to welcome you to the world of anti-fantasy. To those people who do not believe in fantasy at heart but who are good at conforming, I would also like to welcome you to the world of anti-fantasy. Witches and magic cannot possibly exist. Everything can only be revealed through the method of deduction. There must be a lot of people out there who believe earnestly in such a viewpoint. This thing that I call anti-fantasy is really our basic thought process, our common sense. As long as you adopt this way of thinking, there's no way you will surrender to Umineko, because witches and magic do not exist. Now then, the direct explanation of anti-fantasy is complete, and now we will move on to the topic of anti-mystery. First off, before we talk about anti-mystery, we need to dive into the topic of mystery novels. To fully explain what is a mystery novel, this little booklet is not enough. Therefore, we shall only dabble in it briefly. When one talks about mystery novels, one usually means traditional mystery novels. To put it simply, traditional mystery novel is a mystery novel where the reader is able to use the information given in the story to solve the case before the solution is given out. This is the main trend in mystery stories. It's perhaps appropriate to grant it the title traditional. Traditional mystery is a battle of wit between the author and the reader during the reading process. From this perspective, traditional mystery novels are the most entertaining one amongst genre fictions. That means high-quality traditional mysteries are exactly like precise riddle games, such as mathematical problems. They are the purified, enlightened condensation of many great works by famous mystery authors. Nonetheless, purified traditional mystery will eventually run into certain obstacles, namely, a famous problem called Later Queen problem. To put it simply, the Later Queen problem concerns with the inability to determine whether the information the detective, the reader, can obtain in the story is complete or not. Good detectives normally use evidence and clues that they've found to come up with a good deduction and a plausible conclusion, but an important criteria must be satisfied before the solution can be regarded as completely accurate. That is, the evidence and clues that the detective are processing must be complete. In most cases, the detective will thoroughly search the crime scene and list the evidence and clues he or she has discovered. However, the possibility that, quote, unquote, there exists a decisive evidence X which the detective is unable to unearth cannot be denied. It means that no matter how much the famous detective shows off his great detection skill, the solution is only constructed together from the clues and evidence that was present at the time. To put it another way, if the undiscovered decisive evidence X is later added into the story, the solution the detective came up with might be struck down entirely. Therefore, a detective not only has to come up with a solution according to the evidence, but he also has to prove that there does not exist any undiscovered evidence. There is no further need to explain this, for this is the true devil's proof. It's impossible to prove the accuracy of the solution that the detective must have come up with in the end. Even though traditional mystery ought to play out as a completely plausible puzzle game, at this point they're trapped by the fact that they cannot plausibly reveal the truth. In Umineko no Nakukoroni, it was repeatedly stated that there is only one master key, but one cannot deny the possibility that the master key has been duplicated. Even if a character were to claim it impossible to make a duplicate, one cannot disprove the possibility that the key has been duplicated without the speaker's knowledge. Even if the key is molded into a shape that makes it impossible to duplicate, one cannot disprove the possibility that there is unknown technology out there that makes duplicating the key possible. The witness might have been lying, the police might have made some blunder during the processing stage, or a key character is bribed by the culprit, or the culprit has placed certain evidence that would lead the detective to the wrong direction, i.e. red herring. If we cannot completely exclude these unexpected possibilities, we might not even be able to discover the hints. Regrettably, this disproving cannot be accomplished. Stepping back, assuming that the detective, the reader, has come up with a very plausible solution and the murderer has confessed to the crime, as long as the undiscovered evidence X still exists, one cannot disprove the possibility that, quote, the accomplice admits to the crime in order to protect the true murderer. In fact, a similar situation as described above has appeared in Watanagashi-hen of Higurashi no Nakukoroni. Before Meikashi-hen was released, almost all of the readers had come up with the wrong culprit for the events that occurred in Watanagashi-hen. Examining Watanagashi-hen alone, when the culprit admits to the conclusion Rena comes up with in her deduction, that particular deduction is complete. That means the deduction that marks XX as the culprit was accurate at that moment in time. And then, in Meikashi-hen, we are suddenly given a lot of new information that wasn't present in Watanagashi-hen. So, appropriately, the fact that the true culprit is someone else can be easily understood. After reading through Meikashi-hen, the reader would likely think this revised solution is correct. However, at the time of Watanagashi-hen, he or she would not have been able to come up with this solution. Nonetheless, the solution that is constructed in Watanagashi-hen is not wrong in itself. Even though the identity of the true culprit is wrong, the solution for Watanagashi-hen is entirely correct at the time because this is the truth that is constructed using the pre-existing clues at the time. But clearly, the real oversight lies in easily deducing the identity of the murderer at the time of Watanagashi-hen. This is the later queen problem. After the reader finishes reading Meikashi-hen and receives a concrete answer, he or she has more or less accepted this truth. Even so, if the later queen problem exists, then there's no guarantee that what is being revealed in Meikashi-hen is the real truth. As an outrageous example, let's say in the future, Ryukishio 7 decides to release a truth-exposing arc called Higurashi no Nakukoroni Shin, claiming that the truth in Watanagashi-hen and Meikashi-hen are both disguises, and that the real culprit is the unexpected character XX. In addition to adding new information to the story, the new truth would obviously take over the old ones, and the truth in Meikashi-hen becomes false. The scary thing is that even if it's such an absurd situation, as long as one sees Watanagashi-hen, Meikashi-hen, and Higurashi no Nakukoroni Shin as a complete series, then everything makes sense. No matter how much new additional information appears, it's impossible to prove the new information is added after the fact. Also, as long as the later queen problem persists, no matter how much new information is added, it's still legitimate. That's because the existence of unknown clues cannot be disproved. Although this is a bit argumentative on my part, I still want to say that the seemingly complete opposite plotlines in Watanagashi-hen and Meikashi-hen are actually the same. At the time of writing, there didn't exist any information added after the fact. Or so I say, but it's completely impossible to prove whether it's true or not. Putting it all together, what the story is trying to say, what kind of answer will one get from the story, or even the truth that the author, God, says isn't absolute. Even the truth dictated by the author, this all-powerful God, can be revised by the future self of the author, an even higher entity. That means whenever one runs into a later queen problem, the mystery novel would fall into an extreme predicament. The mystery, this noble ideal in mystery novels, would in fact cause itself to be denied, which is rather ironic. With a bit of sarcasm on my part, I call this phenomenon anti-mystery. As long as the devil's proof exists, neither we nor the detectives can disprove the existence of an unknown evidence X. As long as the devil's proof hasn't been broken, we aren't even qualified to try inferring. Even when someone falls down dead right before our eyes and a locked room is established, and there are suspicious evidence everywhere, we still can't begin our deduction. Be it a crime scene investigation or processing evidence or witness testimony, what we need to clarify first and foremost is that thing, i.e., are we able to conduct our deduction with all the evidence we have so far? Historically, when famous detectives arrive at the crime scene, they would look up at the sky and ask the omnipotent god, author, one question. Is this world, book, really a traditional mystery world, able to perform deduction? And then God would reply, of course, this book is a traditional mystery. You will definitely be able to solve all the riddles. Get ahead and perform your deduction. The detectives would then mumble in their minds, ah, that's good. Now I can rest easy and perform my deduction, and begin their investigation. This scene must surely appear in real-life murder cases, too. The police seals off the area, and then the inspectors clap their hands together while looking up at the sky. God, can this case be solved? If we don't get a clear answer, we can't even begin our investigation and deduction. Because if this is an irregular mystery, or a realist school mystery, or even the increasingly popular supernatural fantasy, then it's useless to perform a deduction. But this is real life, therefore God isn't going to answer. So, should we clap our hands together until God appears? Or should we forget about the investigation since we don't have God's guidance? When the aforementioned situation crossed my mind, I thought it was funny, but I've also discovered for the first time that the concept of anti-mystery might actually exist. Those people who treat mysteries as mathematical problems and look for logical answers might seem to be going on the right track, but they're committing a terrible error. Without the assumption that this mystery can be logically solved, these people can't solve the mystery. Besides, this assumption cannot possibly be established. That means without the guidance of God, these people who wildly conduct their deduction are nothing more than uncultured idiots who can't even exercise a little of their gray cells. Their IQs are comparable to insects. In Umineko no Nakukoro ni, Beatrice is mocking this kind of people. Even though they are single-mindedly trying to come up with an equation-like answer, if there isn't even an assurance to the most basic possibility, they have no chance of winning. To use boxing as an analogy, it's as if a boxer is saying, I only want to fight with an opponent whom I can win. To the witch Beatrice, those people who stubbornly claim to deny witches and expose the truth are as laughable as that boxer. Below are comments from Beatrice.
After you have read Umineko Episode 1, are you really attempting to challenge this mystery? Because there's no declaration that it is not considered a challenge? Because this story doesn't specify that all the evidence are gathered, that it is not considered a challenge? How foolish. When and where have you seen this kind of proof before? During your entrance exam, do you ask the deity, will I be able to enter this school? If the deity doesn't offer you guidance, then are you not even going to write the exam? If your mother doesn't tell you, good boy, you'll definitely make it, then you can't even go to the examination room? You seem to finally understand how cheap this human creation called mystery is. Then you should also be able to sympathize with my desire to laugh. Well then, welcome to the anti-mystery world. Isn't there such a saying? There are too many things in this world that science cannot explain, and so it is. Everything in this world cannot be completely proven. The unknown element X, which we have not anticipated, can exist. No one can disprove that. Deduction, mystery novels, and traditional ones? How laughable. Good kids. If you've bought mystery books, then let Mummy read it first, and then ask her, are the riddles in this book something I can solve? If Mummy nods her head, then you can go on and read. You can just eat the baby food Mummy has already chewed up for you.
And below is Renobe's commentary.
Miss, truly, this type of talk is too tasteless. The red truth, which Lady Beatrice utilizes as an antithesis of mystery. The content that the red truth conveys is the word of God. It becomes truth without the need for evidence or proof. As long as the red truth declares that the door can only be unlocked with a master key, any other theories will be rendered useless. Theories about wires and fishing lines will also be discarded. With this as the basis, one can use red to declare there are only 5 sets of master keys. There are no other ways to unlock the door. The keys cannot be duplicated. And then it will be perfect. But looking back, is what one calls the absolute red truth really the truth? I'm afraid not even Miss can confirm it. I presume some of you might have suspected whether you ought to believe in Mrs. Red Truth or not. Yes, in this world there is no such thing as truth that can be proven. Therefore, if one wants to ask if one can believe this truth or not, please rephrase it in this manner. Do you really trust her? Someday, you would surely marry the person you love, and then, on that destined day, the priest will surely ask you the question. You wouldn't say, it's impossible to prove what she says is true or not, in that kind of situation now, would you? In order to deny witches, one must enter the game between witches and human. But in your situation, you have no choice but to accept that the witch's red truth is the truth. This is a game one plays to deny witches, and yet one must believe in the witch's words. What a hilarious contradiction. When you first heard of the rule of the Red Truth, you asked Miss if the Red Truth can be trusted. Miss replied as such: "This is a game between me and you. The rule of the game is sacred. Those who scorn the rule are not qualified to participate." Which means that you and Miss have already established a sacred relationship of trust. This is indeed a connection even the demons would envy. Truth doesn't exist in this world. Even love, the so-called single element in this world, is no more than illusion and fantasy. Perhaps those people who use mystery to explain everything and deny fantasy don't even have the right to love and be loved. Dear reader, are you inclining toward anti-fantasy or anti-mystery, or adapting one or the other depending on circumstances? Perhaps this is the wisest choice. The exaggerated hero adventure told by friends, anti-fantasy. The time when one is drunk in unsuitable dreams, anti-mystery. The gentle melody on an insomniac night, antimony ochel. Good night, dear reader.
And that is anti-mystery versus anti-fantasy. I hope you liked it, because I thought it was very, very fascinating. It lends a lot of insight into how this story is being written. But now, jump scare audio. We have to get back to the other stuff. So, we are now going to be picking up with this one, BERNKASTEL'S Letter. It was originally released in the Episode 3 Novelty Shorts at Comicat 74 on August 16th, 2008. These shorts were republished once again in The First and the Last Gift, and Byrne's letter was originally adapted into visual novel form in Umineko no Nakukoro ni Tsubasa, released at Comicat 79 on December 31st, 2010. A letter by the Witch of Miracles, Lady BERNKASTEL. What could it possibly contain?
To my beloved friend, are you feeling well? Such a conventional greeting would most certainly sound like sarcasm to you now. That's why it'd be kinder of me to ask like this. Are you still alive, my beloved friend? Thanks for the reply the other day. I was very surprised that you still had energy to at least write to me. Well, the one who urged you to write an answer was me, though. Even so, the fact that you mustered energy to at least write for me, for my sake, was a great surprise. Or a miracle. And also, thanks for the valuable feedback. I agree with your opinion, too. Perhaps the wire puller is indeed LAMBDADELTA. That girl probably found a witch who has the worst affinity with me just to take revenge on me, and was waiting for me to take the bait. And I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. I understand. I guess you're writing to me just because of how ridiculous I look now. I feel you're wearing your malicious smile. However, considering your illness, she might be a precious being for me. If she's a much higher ranked witch than I am, it means that she is that much closer to your disease. In other words, it means what she's doing is the only way to escape from the disease that eats into you. No, into us. And she's putting it into practice. And ironically, it also means that she's teaching it to me. Well, it doesn't matter. But if by getting on with that girl's farce, your disease will get better, I'd like you to please lend me your strength. LAMBDADELTA boasted that I will certainly not be able to win on this game board. At that time, I paradoxically identified the rule X. She's really a stupid girl. In other words, it's like that one story that would always begin on June 20th. For those of you in the chat that haven't read it, that is a reference to Higurashi. Just so you know and don't have to overthink it. You're welcome. Probably this is the core of the witch named Beatrice. Indeed, if we consider it that way, this witch named Beatrice certainly is interesting. She opened up a world that neither I, you, or Lambda knew about. It's Rule Y that makes it into a source of magic. It seems LAMBDADELTA touched it just a bit. But Lambda can't possibly reach her level. If this very thing is what we call magic, then the only one of us who could be called a witch is Beatrice. In that sense, we may say that since she put together her own magic system, even though she's just getting started as a witch,
She's already surpassed witches, and she's even starting to approach your level. If only she was fully aware of that. If that was the case, not even LAMBDADELTA would be a match for her, and I even less. Corporal Steck, is Byrne writing to a character in Higurashi? No. When I said that was a reference to Higurashi, I just meant the June 20th line. She is writing to somebody who is a character in Umineko. Whether you have met this character yet or not, I won't tell you. If that was the case, not even LAMBDADELTA would be a match for her, and I even less. And most probably, I'll be affected with the same disease as you. However, even so, this is really interesting. I see this rule Y as the very existence of the witch Beatrice. That's right. I managed to analyze this far. And of course, there's the final rule, Rule Z. Because the number of phenomena being observed that can't be explained with rules X and Y alone is way too big. I'm not entirely sure what Rule Z actually is. According to LAMBDADELTA, it seems that this component has a lethally bad affinity with me. If we assume those words are a hint, then what on earth is this component? For a while, I had assumed that Rule Z is a maze-like existence hiding the truth. In other words, a maze to not let me come close to Rules X and Y. My power is just like writing up a map, making sure I don't miss a single fork in this maze, even if it takes me 100 years. In other words, no matter how complex is the maze is, one day I'll certainly be able to walk through it. By the way, if it was LAMBDADELTA, I guess she'd just keep on walking along the walls until she arrived at the exit, even if it took her 1,000 years. No, actually, she would drill holes into the walls in a straight line until she reaches the exit without taking a single detour. So, how does such a maze have a bad affinity with me? There's only one thing I can think of. Perhaps this is a maze for which a map cannot possibly be written. For example, perhaps the maze has an indefinite, ever-changing shape. I see. If it's this general idea, I may be able to explain it with the rock-paper-scissors game that LAMBDADELTA talked about. I can't reach the end of this maze with the powers given to me, but to her with her drill, this maze is nothing. I can understand this as a general idea, but trying to think of it as a rule, I don't understand anything at all. Because rules are supposed to be immutable, right? Something so indefinite being a rule is beyond my understanding. Even though rules should be solid, this one is fluid. Kind of like mercury. In Latin, mercury means lining silver. They believed that it leads to perpetual youth and was highly valued as research objects by the alchemists. It's ironic. Turns out that this is connected to alchemy and witches, and she considers herself to be a witch. Unless I can unravel this Rule Z. No, because I can't unravel it. Beatrice will remain an actual, real witch. Writing so much bored me out. If you read everything up to this point, you must be laughing. I'd be willing to bet on it. And now that you're seeing me make this face, you'll want to sneer at me even more. Before long, I'll pay you a visit. But for now, I will serve as your get-well gift. Sneer at me as much as you want. You enjoy that, right? I know you do. Please, revive at last, so I can meet a friend who I haven't seen for so long. From the friend you hopefully still hold dear, BERNKASTEL'S.
Love is an illusion, a misunderstanding. Mutual love is a mutual misunderstanding of being mutually loved. An engagement is a vow to never wake up from that misunderstanding. Ronafe.
Many things were found in your room. From that evidence, it is possible to infer that you love me. Many things were found in my room. From that evidence, it is possible to infer that I love you. Nothing was found in her room. However, the possible existence of undiscovered evidence X of unfaithfulness cannot be denied. Frederica BERNKASTEL'S. G. Anywho, let's move on to the next story. Shit. God damn it. Hold on. Tab. Yeah. There we go. Alright. Memoirs of the Lambda Delta was first published as a booklet given out at the Oyashiro-sama is Watching 2 event held by 07th Expansion on September 28, 2008, then republished in The First and the Last Gift, and converted to VN form in Umineko Tsubasa. Lambda Delta is known as the Witch of Certainty. Well, the stream of humans wanting their desires granted by her certainly is endless. In gratitude for the letter from the other day, relevant fragments included.
Boredom is poison for us. So to relieve it somewhat, I grant the desires of humans sometimes. I will grant you one wish. Ah, that sounds so bittersweet. These words alone could replace sugar for tea for 7 years. Those who hear those words from me get to enjoy their bittersweetness as well. Of course, I also enjoy it.
Corporal Stuck, I will actually go ahead and intervene on this one. Bern was not writing to Lambda. Just to go ahead and save you the trouble.
Of course, I also enjoy it. Hearing the kinds of wishes they come up with. After all, it could happen that I'll end up meeting a new friend. Unfortunately, my expectations always end up being betrayed. That girl told me that expectations are similar to tea leaves. You can't make tea without them. It's just hot water. That's why any world must have an appropriate amount of expectations, hopes, and dreams. This was a fitting example for her. If there's too many tea leaves, the tea is even more disgusting to drink than raw hot water. That's why I'll use a proper quantity, the amount she taught me. Or maybe just a bit less. I can't drink tea that's too bitter, so I don't add a lot of tea leaves. Can I really wish for anything? What's the catch? I'm sick and tired of such boring doubts. So in secret, I turn an hourglass upside down. If the stupid human can't come up with even a single wish in 5 minutes, they're not good enough to turn into tea. So, if the hourglass runs out, time's out, goodbye. Here's one of the most annoying wishes that I encounter often. I want you to increase the number of wishes you can grant. They try to increase the finity of 1 to infinity this way. Could it be that these stupid people somehow feel a sense of superiority in that, as if they can approach creators? However, I get the exact opposite impression from this. I'll grant you 1 wish, and 1 wish alone is enough to create an entire universe. Allow me to explain. You might only have 1 wish, but that doesn't mean you have to wish for a single countable thing. So when they start counting things, it becomes obvious that the miracles they're thinking of are worthless. What kind of boring things will a person like that wish for, even if they had 100 wishes? People like that are worthless. It's the same thing as with tea. If you reuse the same tea leaves 100 times over, it's obvious that the tea will become even more diluted and unappetizing. So if someone makes this kind of boring wish, I simply tell them, yes, all right, I'll grant your wish. See you later. Then I disappear. And they just keep waiting for me to come back, thinking of various different wishes, and then they die without even one of them being granted. Idiots. After that, the next typical wish is, I want a lot of money. Obviously, this answer is also boring. What's so great about money? Do they think that a traveler in the desert suffering from hunger and thirst would jump in happiness seeing a wad of bills that they couldn't even eat or drink? This kind of narrow freedom is only useful within the framework known as the currency system. The narrow-mindedness of such desires, it's truly disappointing. Would a 25-cent coin be useful for a Japanese vending machine? Could you spend 100 yen at a street stall in Africa? When grieving for a loved one, would money help you fully forget them? I want love. I want happiness. Desires like these disappoint me too. I could just say, don't worry, you're already loved. You can already be happy, and that would make their wish come true. So stupid. Love and happiness are similar to air. They fill the world, but you don't notice them at all, as if they're not even there. So, people wishing for such obvious things disappoint me. And can I say something else? Love and happiness are as varied as people themselves. Love and happiness are just generic terms for an incredibly wide variety of different phenomena. These boring people are unable to explain their version of love and happiness without resorting to such abstract terms. So no matter how many decades they live, they won't be able to actually feel neither love nor happiness. Idiots. I want to never lose to anyone. At first, that wish interested me slightly, but then I decided that to anyone is too much to ask for. You can't win if there's nobody to fight against. So as soon as such people would defeat their enemies, they'd lose their will to live. Even though I could create and destroy entire universes for them, why do people's wishes never cross the limits imposed by human society? This is why they're humans, and not witches. Among all these boring people, I once met a girl who seemed to have potential. After spending a little while pondering, she said, "Please guarantee that my efforts will certainly not be in vain." Huh? What? I'm telling you that I can grant you any wish, but you want to do it yourself? You want me to guarantee that you'll succeed. What's the point? Sometimes people pretend to be philosophers and wish for things they themselves do not understand. She must be one of those types, I thought. Her efforts were not limited by numbers. She was asking for something similar to those who want infinite wishes. But deep inside her eyes, I saw something different from what I see other people with this kind of wish. Even though the sand in the hourglass ran out, I decided to listen to her story a little longer. I'm telling you, you can wish for anything and I'll grant it instantly. You don't have to put forward any effort at all. Any wishes at all is fine, but you only get one. I told you. My wishes can't be counted. You mean you want me to grant you a large number of wishes? How greedy of you. No, I have a single goal, but the path to it is complicated, and many difficulties will arise on my way. Infinitely many. However, I believe that I can forge my path to my single goal without making any mistakes, and that I will certainly reach it. Certainly reach the goal. That's not a wish anymore. Humans call this determination, and witches call it fate. Wishes that certainly come true don't exactly fit the term determination. This is perhaps better called predestination. But that's not something humans are capable of creating. I saw the radiance of a soul close to mine at that time. She wanted just a single thing. A wish that would certainly be able to grant herself predestination. Make me believe in my own power. I thought this was interesting. I decided I could grant this wish. But before I did that, I thought I would double check just in case. I wanted to know the actual goal of her predestination, that she would certainly reach as she claims. Perhaps she hasn't surpassed the human level just yet. Perhaps she is just another boring person. But I have already gathered the tea leaves. I was certain that she would live up to my expectations. Tell me, what do you truly wish for? What do you want your fate to be? I will become a god. That one word. It was enough to make me certain. I granted her wish. I guaranteed that her efforts would not be in vain. Her determination was already as good as fate, and to her my guarantee has become fate as well. That's why everything she experiences from now on will be fate. But her fate actually has a weak point. Her determination is the root of her wish, so if she loses that, everything will end. Besides, I did guarantee that her efforts won't be in vain, but I never specified just how much effort she would have to put forth. If anybody in the chat understands what this is alluding to, please do not say anything about it. Just leave it vague, just leave it vague, just leave it vague. So it could take her an eternity. Unless she gives up, of course. Well, anyway, make me a god. That kind of honest wish would have gotten a perfect score from me. On the other hand, if I were to immediately turn a human into a god, their spirit would just fizzle out. A human would need to gradually get used to the pressure of being almighty, making short steps with their efforts. Perhaps our world is like an endless stepladder going down into a bottomless pit. You could go down slowly and cowardly, or you could hurry down to where the end is. But if you make a misstep, you'll forever fall into the bottomless hell below. In a way, she was correct in taking the careful route. You see, it was just A little disappointing how careful she was. Since I wanted her to hurry down to the depths I found myself in.
Oh, since I wanted her to hurry up to the depths. Yeah, that was an end statement. That was not a leading statement.
That girl worked hard, but I think I overestimated her after all. Unfortunately, she was far from reaching the world I hoped for. But that's okay, since she created a new witch and sent her to me. After that, I drifted through countless worlds for quite some time. Sometimes I found humans that seemed interesting, and so I asked them the same question. But I haven't met anyone who would ask for a wish that would surpass that of that girl. That is, until I met that child. Please turn me into a witch.
And I just want to interrupt here. There is a note in the original booklet version of this story that is not included in the visual novel version right here. Right after this line, there is a little asterisk note from Ryukishi that says, "Note, strictly speaking, even if it is a male, you can still call him a witch. Therefore, you can't conclude that the gender of this person is female by means of the speech, 'I want to become a witch.'" So there you go.
Wow, how direct, yes. Those were the words I always wanted to hear. But again, I decided to double check. A witch. Who? Do you want to fly through the skies on a broom? Or perhaps duplicate biscuits inside of your pocket? Of course I would be capable of that. Once I become a witch, I'll be able to do anything I want to. And now there's nothing that I cannot do, because I am already a witch. I remembered that their eyes had the radiance of the eyes of that little girl I missed so much. I felt the aroma of sweet tea leaves that I haven't felt for almost 1,000 years now. That's right. They're the same as that girl. This person will grant, create, accomplish everything on their own. Their strong eyes had predestination in them. But even that little girl has stated that she's moving towards her goal, whereas this person boldly proclaimed that they have already reached it. They caught my interest. Wait a moment. You're saying you're already a witch? Are you implying that you've reached the same level as me, the Witch of Certainty, who bears the title of Lady? Know your place, you puny human. Yes, I am already a witch. I need but one thing. To be acknowledged and recognized as such by another witch. This wish is pretty much the same as that of that little girl. How brave. I see. If you're given the title by another witch, it becomes impossible to deny, huh? But tell me this. Creators remain creators even if they aren't acknowledged or recognized by anyone. Witches are the same. Whether or not I recognize you, you should remain a witch anyway, right? Yes. I have already started to surpass human limits. You could say that I am already a higher being than that of any human. But I need my superiority to be accepted by someone who is of an even higher rank than I am. A human could tell you that you surpassed their levels, but only a witch could tell you if you reached hers. Is that what you mean? Indeed. I am aware that I have transcended the human world and have entered a world above that as a witch. I would like you as another witch to acknowledge that. You mean, to become a witch, you need the recommendation of another one? That's very interesting. But then, who would acknowledge the very first witch? Perhaps humans themselves grant the title of a witch to some being that surpassed them. So then, even if I don't recognize you, you're already a witch. Yes, I am already a witch. And so I need acknowledgement of a witch on a higher level than me. I feel like I'm being deceived with tortuous sophisms. What if I refuse? Then I will force you to acknowledge me. Not even you will be able to deny that I am a witch. I wonder what kind of compendium a human could create. Could I take a look? The aroma of sweet tea that surrounded this person reminded me of chirping of birds in spring. After an extremely long journey, I realized that I had met a resilient witch, the kind that I haven't seen for a long time. Then I plunged myself into studying the formulas of their magic compendium, and thanks to bizarre explanations that only they themselves could give me, I understood that this person's magic was on a level far surpassing my own. Certainly, they're a bit clumsy. Their magical world is still incomplete. However, the formula for its creation is flawless and possesses endless possibilities. It will probably take them a long time to learn to deal with this infinity, but without any doubt, the door for them was already open. And above everything, this witch has managed to create a compendium of magic in the human world. The more a witch seeks freedom and power, the more they are freed from any restrictions. What I mean by that is, of course, the restrictions imposed by the material world. In other words, they will be steadily moving away from the world of humans, like me and other witches of my rank did. However, this witch has managed to do that well in the world of humans. That is, they could step into our world in their human form. And besides, their composition formula is extremely deep. It's as if they're flying down into the bottomless depths while holding an umbrella that doubles as a parachute. Those same depths that I had to descend to using a stepladder for 1,000 years, taking one step after another, and they're flying fast. Of course, there's the danger of the umbrella breaking, in which case they'll fall into hell just like that. Because of their recklessness, because of my dislike for this type of humans combined with my interest for this new witch, I started to shed light on a world yet unknown to even me, and felt honored to taste tea that was this sweet. Here's something I thought of. I believe that all beings are placed somewhere between two extremes, the side that creates fate and the side that follows it. Humans are the ones that follow. They're stupid, helpless, unable to create anything worthwhile. However, they have solid ground to stand on. This ground doesn't betray them, so they can live without fear of falling into hell. The side that creates fate is the creators, the omniscient and almighty. But the fact that they can create anything and have no restrictions placed upon them means they also don't have the restriction of the ground under their feet. Beings that have no restrictions imposed upon them lose even the restriction of meaning. The very concept of life and death disappears for them and they reach the limit of zero. Or else they fall, crumble, vanish, like mist. I think that witches belong somewhere in the middle. We create fate and play around with it. We have fun with that freedom. But we still accept certain limits and restrictions, giving us some footing so that we don't fall down. Those witches that aren't afraid of falling are much more powerful than I am. Will this person become a teacup that relieves just a moment of the endless boredom on my 1,000-year journey? Or will they shine a light on depths someone as cowardly as me could never reach? Will they become a witch that far surpasses who I am and show me an unknown new world? Well, I don't really care. If we were to assume that I am not a traveler headed toward hell, but instead a disaster victim trying her hardest not to drown, then for me, this person is a splendid piece of wood to hold on to. Will they become my savior and take me into an unknown world? Or are they just another cup of tea to make my day more elegant? Very well. I have no complaints. I recognize you as a witch, upon the name of LAMBDADELTA, the Witch of Certainty. As long as your magical world remains certainly magical, I will continue being your guardian. It would be a waste to drink tea this delicious on my own. I have to call my friend. I should surprise her with a wonderful tea party.
Note, LAMBDADELTA's signature? Well, well, well. How very, very interesting. But we have to get to our next story, which is... it's up here, it's up here, it's up here. Notes from a Certain Chef. Was first published as a booklet on November 16th, 2008 at the Masquerade event. It was republished in The First and the Last Gift and converted to VN form in Umineko Tsubasa. Goda is employed as the sole chef of Rokenjima. In this notebook, he recounts the ghost stories of the Ushiramiya family mansion. It's Goda time, baby! This is actually one of my favorites that we're going to be reading today, I'm not going to lie to you. I love Notes from a Certain Chef, it's really good.
I'm writing things down so that I can forget them. I hope that only I have to know about any of this. Since they're known as the 7 Izu Islands, I actually believe that the Izu Archipelago actually does consist of 7 islands, and nothing more than that. At first, I was told that Rokenjima was a rather small island. However, my poor imagination drew me a picture of a tiny island with a single palm tree on it when I heard that. Compared to that, Rokenjima was actually quite vast. The coastline of the island was a little over 10 kilometers. The overall length of the island would be almost 3 kilometers. On a map, it certainly looks small, but when you take into account that it's a private island with only the mansion of the Yoshiramiya family built there, its vastness becomes something unimaginable. I often remember how the presence of the imposing mansion on the other side of the beautiful rose garden greatly surprised me when I first arrived here. Not even in my wildest dreams could I imagine that my life as a cook will lead me to a mansion of billionaires. That was like a manga or a fairy tale. In the first place, I was an unlucky person. I worked at a restaurant in a well-known hotel, and it was a wonderful job full of both pride and tension. It was a place where wonderfully talented cooks competed with their skills. The bonds between us were even stronger than our pride or any tradition. But everything collapsed when the head chef, who united everyone with his strong charisma, suddenly retired due to illness. For us cooks, our skills and pride mean everything, and the only people we can respect are cooks that surpass us. That's why, under this head chef's control, we all performed our work as one, no matter how impatient, inflexible, or young we were. So perhaps this was an inevitable consequence of the head chef suddenly retiring. We've split into several factions. We expected the most popular person in the kitchen to become the next head chef. He was highly valued for his achievements, skills, and leadership over the enthusiastic juniors. However, he was also strong-willed. He didn't get along very well with the hotel management. The management needed a cook who would show acceptable results within suitable budgets and deadlines, not someone who would produce an amazing result at the cost of ignoring those. This clash of priorities became a problem. The candidate that the management ended up choosing was an opportunist. He was more interested in showing his subservience to the management than actually making food. Instead of improving his cooking skill, he was only spending time on figuring out how to get a promotion. In the end, this man became the head chef. The person all of us wanted to see in that position instead ended up as his assistant. We couldn't accept this result, but we decided to keep working under these conditions for a while to see how things turned out. However, the difference between him and his predecessor was immediately obvious, which caused the cooks to explode in frustration. Many did not approve of his method that ignored their pride as cooks, and of course, that included me. Before long, assistants and sympathizers both decided to force the management to negotiate by slapping them with our resignation letters. At this point, it didn't seem like we had any other choice. Back there, I was the youngest, but I still wouldn't lose to anyone, neither in skill nor in pride. Thinking back on it, I didn't quite grasp the fact that I was not only a cook, but also an employee of the hotel. At first, the assistants weren't interested in such careless methods. Later, I understood. The young people like me were very enthusiastic about this chance at a revolt against the new head chef. But the end result was not what we expected. The management talked some of the assistants out of quitting, and they didn't join in our revolt. After that, the hotel decided to clear the kitchen of the remaining dissidents.
He literally he was part of a fucking union. And his job fucking union busted him. Jesus Christ, Goda! They talked the most useful and skilled people out of resigning and purposefully overlooked the attempt at a revolt. I didn't understand how they could do such a thing to us, but for the hotel, this was the obvious decision to make. We, the young ones, have been insulting our colleagues who decided not to participate. We called the assistants traitors and started planning a counterattack against them, but a cook is a cook because he cooks. Otherwise, he cannot make a living. Starting with the calmer ones, one by one, they quietly backed out from that uproar and disappeared after getting another job. Only then did I realize just how inexperienced I was. The title of a former cook in a prestigious restaurant can be both a weapon and a burden. Finding a new job wasn't easy. I tried to find employment at restaurants and hotels of the same level, but
All participants of this industry have strong horizontal bonds. Details of the trouble we caused were already well known, and I heard that there were even some circulating letters that stated that if they hired anyone who was involved, their relations would have to be reconsidered.
They literally fucking blacklisted him! He tried to unionize with his fellow workers and they fucking blacklisted him! I love Goda!
There was nothing indicating that I could call myself a cook ever again. One day, suddenly, I got a call from a young man who sympathized with me and resigned at the same time I did. He told me that a certain multimillionaire was looking for a live-in cook. The pay wasn't bad at all, but I got the impressions that the working conditions would be rather severe. The young man told me this to return a past favor. From what I understood, they were looking for a full-time and very skillful cook. However, very skillful cooks would usually already have a job that wouldn't leave them any free time. They would also have bonds of gratitude with their workplace, which means they'd never thoughtlessly resign just because pay somewhere else was better. In other words, it was a perfect job offer for someone like myself. Working as a full-time cook on a remote island didn't sound bad. Besides, my financial situation didn't allow me to be picky anymore. Furthermore, such a high status would satisfy my youthful pride. Thus, I applied as a cook to the NezumiVA family. Ten more were gathered there besides me. If I recall correctly, I was the oldest person there. I thought I was still young, and being among a bunch of people younger than myself was awkward. But the young ones had a lot of inspiration. If they had more experience, they would probably become wonderful cooks. In terms of experience, I really had the upper hand here. Also, I was highly valued for my skills when serving the customers, which I learned with the previous head chef. The difference between a cook that never leaves the kitchen and a cook that brings food out to VIPs and even chats with them is obvious. That's why I felt that I would get this job. There was still the chance that they would pick someone young because habits from other workplaces will cause trouble, or something like that. In the end, it was really up to luck. Later, Madame Natsuhi told me that she gave the final word that I'll get the job, and I could see a smile on her face. And thus I became the full-time cook who would serve the NezumiVA family. For the duration of the contract, I could not offer my food to anyone except this family, which helped stimulate my pride even more. Nobody will see my cooking except the NezumiVA family. Not bad. And thus started my second life at the Rokenjima mansion.
And now you see too why Goda is so reverent toward Natsuhi. She essentially literally saved his life. He feels a really, really strong debt to her.
Well, my troubles as a cook and as a servant would be very tedious to read and uninteresting to keep writing about. It would be too boring. That's why I decided to write down interesting things about my working life in Rokenjima. And the most interesting thing is, no doubt, the legend of Beatrice, the Golden Witch. All over Japan, wherever you are, there are stories about curses and such. Of course, the hotel I used to work at also had plenty of these. So the first time I heard this story at my new job, I smiled bitterly and thought, oh, not this again. But this story was different from others. Most such horror stories in Japan focus on ghosts or yokai. This legend of Beatrice, the Golden Witch, was different enough from that to make me uncomfortable. However, this mention of the Rokenjima family gives you a sensation of anachronism, so even if a ghost like Oiwa-san with her head wrapped in a triangular bandage were to come out, you'd probably only snicker at her instead. Perhaps ghost stories do suit a mansion like this one. They say that the lady from the portrait in the reception hall wanders about the mansion every night. They say that this lady rules this mansion at night, that if you don't respect her, you'll meet a cruel fate, and so on. I've heard that a servant once spoke ill of Lady Beatrice, and that this very same servant ended up retiring soon after with a serious injury. In other words, anything bad that happens to this island may get attributed to the curse of Lady Beatrice. Further expanding on that, it means that whenever something bad happens, the one who gets the blame is the person who doesn't respect her. I quickly figured that out and made sure to act like I respected Beatrice deeply. But in my heart, I sneered at her, since there was no way something so absurd existed. This ghost story of Beatrice was blindly accepted by the senior servants. Respect her or you'll be cursed. Thanks to phrases like that, it felt like a person might die an unnatural death if they don't respect the witch. There's a strong aura warning us not to speak ill of Lady Beatrice and not to take her lightly. Even chatting about her over tea wasn't something we ever did. As strange as it may be, if you live among people like this for a long time, you start to think like them. I was starting to become afraid that one day, during my usual night patrol, I might pass by in front of that huge portrait and her eyes would glare into me. Even so, I was above these simple horror stories. Or so I thought. The night rounds are difficult, since we have to check if all the doors and windows are closed inside of this huge mansion. On the other hand, the family was already asleep, and I could relax somewhat as a servant. One night, when I was passing by the reception hall, I saw a silhouette disappearing towards the grand staircase. I heard footsteps, too. Since I had thought that the master and madam were already sleeping, and I was kind of slacking around, I got greatly flustered and tense. That floating shadow left the impression of a female figure. Among the servants, there's no one with a silhouette like that, so I automatically thought it was madam or milady. It seemed like the silhouette was wearing a negligee. However, when I think carefully, that was quite a strange story. Madam is an extremely serious person and always said that the corridors inside the mansion were the same as public roads. In other words, she meant that people shouldn't walk around the corridors in informal clothing, such as pajamas. Actually, even when the people of the Ushiramiya family were at home, they were always using formal garments. At home, one should relax and wear more comfortable clothes, but such logic didn't apply to this family. I actually have seen Madam chewing Milady out for having her clothes out of shape. So after thinking carefully, I concluded that no such silhouettes were supposed to exist in this mansion. The more I think about it, the less it seems likely that it was a person from the mansion. Then, who on earth did I see? Was it really Lady Beatrice? I saw the silhouette in the reception hall. In other words, in front of a portrait. After some time passed, I felt even more scared than the moment I saw the silhouette. Count on it. Do you have a minute?
I'm washing and tidying up the tools, after which I plan to clean the grand staircase. Why?
He's a servant who uses the alias of Canon, and who is allowed to wear the one-winged eagle. From the very start, I thought I wouldn't be able to get along well with him, and now I didn't even want to try anymore. However, that moment was so unusual that I wanted to discuss it with him. He has been serving the Ushiramiya family longer than I have, and he knows the details about the horror story of Beatrice. Even so, I can't help talking to him as if I'm his superior. To sum it up, I didn't like talking to him very much. But for now, I just wanted to talk to someone about my experience. I don't care what he says to me. I won't be able to calm down until I talk to someone. I see. Now I understand the feelings of the barber who couldn't help but shout that the king has donkey ears. I think I saw Lady Beatrice tonight. Has that ever happened to you, Canon? He remained silent and stared at me motionlessly, as if evaluating me. It was as though he was a cat, pondering about whether to stay or run away. When I started to think he was just ignoring me, Canon answered.
Once, when I was doing the rounds, during my shift, late at night, I saw a golden butterfly.
A golden butterfly? They say that when Lady Beatrice appears, they fly around to announce her presence, right? That was what I heard. They say that butterflies that shine of gold are an omen of Lady Beatrice's appearance. That story was very similar to the will-o'-the-wisps that appear before a ghost shows up. But unlike the will-o'-the-wisps, golden butterflies don't have an ominous image associated with them. I would actually want to see such a beautiful thing at least once if it really exists. However, if I happen to meet them during a night round all alone, I'm sure they'd look really ominous.
The old servants say that the golden butterflies announce the appearance of Lady Beatrice, and that we might meet her if we follow them, but they also tell us not to follow.
So, Canon, you didn't follow after them?
No. Going after them would be the same as disrespecting Lady Beatrice.
If I remember, a servant who followed after them had a serious injury and resigned, right?
Yes, I have heard of that. Lady Beatrice is kind to those who respect her, but cruel to those who do not.
Canon's mood hinted that even talking so much about Lady Beatrice was really a bad idea. It was beyond his usual dislike toward me. Sorry for wasting your time. I guess I made a mistake. Perhaps it was Madam or Milady wearing a pajama.
Madam or Milady would absolutely never go out in the corridor wearing such clothing.
But I did see a figure. It was like that of a woman wearing a negligee.
I don't think Madam or Milady even have clothes like that.
It's possible that this was the answer I actually wanted to hear. That female silhouette was neither Madam nor Milady. Could it really have been Lady Beatrice? I don't understand. I don't want to acknowledge the existence of witches just because of this. I need to figure out whose shadow it was. Perhaps this intention of mine was reflected on my face, because Canon noticed it and warned me.
Goto-san, do not say anything. For your own good, you should be careful with acts that might insult Lady Beatrice.
No, not at all. No. I wasn't intending to do anything of the sort.
I, too, not so long ago, have doubted the existence of Lady Beatrice.
Even you, Canon?
Yes. I had the same opinion you did. I was doubtful of the existence of this mysterious witch and confused by the insistence of the old servant to respect her. I even thought about discovering her true face if she had one.
That was unexpected. I was thinking that Canon believed in Lady Beatrice blindly, but now he's telling me that he had doubts about her existence in the past. Now I was even more worried. And why do you believe now, Canon?
Because I was shown a miracle that only a witch could possibly do. No, not a miracle. It was a warning. A warning from Lady Beatrice herself not to doubt or insult her.
Sorry, but could you tell me about this in detail? He went silent once again. However, I wanted to do something about the haze in my heart, so I didn't give up. I kept insisting, and he told me about the story of how he started to believe in the witch. In short, it went like this. One day, he was cleaning the gardening storehouse. He forgot to put the key of the storehouse back into the key box in the servant's room and went to bed with it in his pocket. You can only open and close the storehouse with this one single key. There's no spare, and master keys don't work with this lock. In other words, nobody should have been able to enter the storehouse that night. Next morning. In order to do the maintenance in the rose garden, he opened the gardening storehouse to get the tools and was shocked. The thoroughly cleaned interior of the gardening storehouse was transformed into an utter mess. And there was an eerie drawing on the floor of something that looked like a magic circle in blood-like red paint. What an absurd story. If you had the key the whole time, the storehouse was a closed room. Nobody would be able to make a mess inside or draw such strange pictures. I also couldn't.
I also couldn't believe it back then. Even to this day, I remember the shock I experienced from opening the storehouse and seeing both the mess that only a tornado could have made and the eerie magic circle.
Of course, in a situation like this, it couldn't have not looked eerie. But is there truly no simple explanation? It could have just been an elaborate prank someone prepared to frighten you.
A prank?
Yes, precisely. You're young. To tease you, the other servants could have played a prank on you, couldn't they?
But I had the key. At least during that night. There's no way anyone could have entered the storehouse.
Couldn't there be a spare that you simply don't know about?
There should be no such thing.
Why are you so certain? You believe that a spare doesn't exist, but you can't prove that. Perhaps a spare key exists and you simply don't know about it. This allows us to explain the incomprehensible closed room as someone's prank. I felt like I was the greatest detective to ever live. Canon didn't object against my explanation. My mood improved and I ended up criticizing Lady Beatrice. Witches don't exist. Surely it was a misunderstanding. All of the incomprehensible incidents that the witch is allegedly responsible for could be explained with simple tricks or coincidences. I'll never forget the wide-eyed expression Canon showed me at that moment.
It was as if he said, "You'll never get away unharmed after saying such dreadful things." It was as though he was frightened by my stupidity. A face like that. That uncanny expression of his got stuck in my heart as a thorn. I froze and remained like that for a while. And then, one day, when I was starting to forget the pain of that thorn, it was a rare day when Master Kinzo was out. Master Kraus, Madam, and the lady were also absent because of a trip, meaning the whole Ushirimiya family was gone from the island. Because of that, the shift chart had only a few people assigned. So that day, only Genji and I were on duty. They often say that when the cat is away, the mice will play. It really was a very pleasant day. Genji never left the servant room and was busy with paperwork. So I was secretly but carefreely strolling through the rose garden with a beer can and a persimmon. It was a really pleasant, wonderful day, and I wished that I could have a day like this at least once a week. The only thing I had to do was cook for myself and Genji, which was a piece of cake. The cooking wasn't too troublesome, so having such a rare opportunity, I cleaned the kitchen more diligently than usual, and was rewarded with a reflection of my wide smile in the sparkling kitchen sink. Genji was in charge of patrolling, so when I was finished with my work, I returned to the servants' room, and to get rid of the daily fatigue, I took a shower. Not that I was particularly tired, after just having a drink in the rose garden. Suddenly the phone rang. I thought that calling at this hour meant that it was something urgent. But Genji never calls in the middle of the night. Even if something urgent happens, he'd rather avoid the phone call and go up to knock on the door of the person he had business with. I wondered what must have happened for Genji, of all people, to call. In a rush, I covered myself with a bath towel and picked up the phone. Did something happen? His answer to that was really simple.
Come to the kitchen, as soon as you can. Hurry.
It was strange for Genji's voice to sound so nervous. However, the tone of his voice made me realize that something strange must have happened. But what on earth could have happened? By the way, the kitchen, to me, was my fortress. If whatever happened there was due to my ineptitude, I would be held responsible. But how could I, of all people, mess something up in the kitchen? Anyway, I changed clothes once again and rushed to the kitchen. And then, I'll probably never forget what I saw there.
What is the meaning of this? I want you to help me out here. It's too much for me to handle alone. Looking at this bizarre situation, I was surprised at how Genji-san's surprise was only expressed in the nervousness of his voice. Either way, my beloved kitchen that I had tidied up so well, it should have been in a perfect condition. So why is it like this? On the counter, the pots and bowls that I have polished until they have shined were piled up like children's building blocks. And around it, the cookware, such as the ladles, were lined up radially. The impression it gave off at first could be described like that of a totem pole built out of cookware. Moreover, they were surrounded by thick blood-like red paint, in the shape of an eerie magic circle. Of course, shivers went up my spine. And then, in my mind, the thorn from that time was revived. I was sure of it. This was the same thing that Kanon had experienced in the gardening storehouse. Goda, the other servants must not see this. Let's hurry up and clean.
Right. Let's clean. Oh, wait, no! Who could have done such a thing?
What a strange story. Today, only Genji and I were on Rokenjima. I would never do such an absurd thing. So this automatically makes Genji the culprit. But would he ever do something like this? What would he gain from such a prank? Does he just want to harass me? But Genji is cleaning too. Why would he make a mess and clean it on his own? Would he do something so pointless just to scare me? That's impossible. If I were to find a culprit for this grotesque prank with a magic circle, I can only think of the Golden Witch, Beatrice. Genji, when did you notice this?
When I finished my round and was about to return to the servants' room, I noticed that the door of the kitchen had been left open. I took a peek and it was already in this state.
Could it have been a burglar?
The mansion is perfectly locked. Besides, there's no way a burglar would go to the trouble of coming to Rokenjima.
Then who could have done this?
There's no need to figure that out. Goda, you will wash the dishes. I'll erase the scribbles. We should not allow them to reach the eyes of anyone else.
Sorry, but I heard from Canon that something similar to this happened before, at the gardening storehouse. So, does this kind of thing happen often?
Perhaps I shouldn't have asked. Even though his mouth and lips never stopped moving, Genji turned around and raised his head with a grim face. Canon, huh? And I told him to keep quiet about this too.
I'm sorry. Please don't scold him. I was the one who insisted. Please, just tell me. Did this kind of thing happen often before?
It happens now and again. These pranks aren't that rare. Pranks, you say?
But who could... After all, there's only two of us here, right? Who could possibly be here except us? Of course I didn't do this. Then did you do this, Genji? I don't understand. What does it all mean? Who did this?
Don't think about it. Just be silent and clean. Never tell of this to anyone. Not to Master Kinzo, Master Kraus, not to Madame Natsuki, and of course not to Milady either. Canon shall be punished later.
I won't say a word to anyone, so please, answer me. Genji, do you think Beatrice did this?
Don't say her name so recklessly. But why? The servants who do this don't last long here. Goda, Madame highly values your cooking skill. It'd be troublesome if you had to quit. That sounded a little threatening. And at the same time, it seemed like he was basically admitting to this being the fault of Lady Beatrice. These strange cases, perhaps, were not limited by what happened in the gardening storehouse. And without any doubt, whenever this happens, it's covered up before the family can notice it.
I won't speak her name carelessly again. So please, tell me, was this done by Lady Beatrice?
Most likely, yes. The previous cases were even more incomprehensible. And they were definitely impossible for a human.
Like what?
A young servant who was doing the night round saw a golden butterfly and went after it. Arriving at the closed back door, she lost sight of the butterfly and gave up. If I'm not mistaken, when you see a golden
If I'm not mistaken, when you see a golden butterfly, you're not supposed to go after it, right?
Indeed. Then she turned around. And the entire wall had been painted over by magic circles similar to this one.
Eh? So that means that young servant followed after the golden butterfly, gave up, and you're telling me that in the few seconds she wasn't looking, the entire wall was painted over?
She couldn't have overlooked the wall either. She strongly insisted that the wall had no drawings on it at first. And she also said that it happened in the few seconds it took her to check that the back door was locked and turn around.
No way! You're kidding me! It couldn't have been a joke.
She called me and I came to help her erase that. The pattern was too complex. It certainly wasn't something you can draw in a few seconds. And it wasn't something you could possibly overlook either. Right after this, the servant was hospitalized with a high fever and had to retire. She returned to her hometown afterwards, and never got in touch with any of us ever again.
Absurd. No, perhaps even that was an advanced prank. Perhaps the young servant did this herself to make fun of everyone or something.
Yes, this is also a valid viewpoint, but I would like to stop talking about this now. After all, I myself had a first-hand experience with something that is definitely impossible for a human.
Huh? What?
Genji stopped talking there. After a long pause, he chose to ignore me completely and resume cleaning. Genji, who was a very pragmatic person and very serious about his work, only kept silence when it came to Lady Beatrice. His silence told me that she exists better than a million words could. We finished the cleaning. Even if we told someone that a weird totem pole and magic circle were in the kitchen, nobody would ever believe it. Genji warned me once again not to speak of it to anyone. I tried to forcibly erase the events of that night from my mind with strong alcohol. A lot of time has passed, and I chose to conclude that it was a joke from someone with awful taste. But even nowadays,
I get frightened sometimes. The first thing every morning for me is to go to the kitchen to make breakfast. At those times, I get frightened that my cookware would end up piled up in a strange manner again. It's better if I forget about it. I want to help myself forget by writing it down here. At any rate, I hope I will never have to go through something like this again. Toshiro, Goda.
Too bad. It's going to keep happen. It's going to happen again.
Boy, oh boy. Beatrice, you card. Oh, goodness. Okay. Yeah, I really like that story a lot. I like getting a little bit more light shed on Goda's background, but also, like, it really does have this very pulpy, like, creepypasta-ass vibe to it in the second half. It's really good. I like it a lot. So, let's move on to... where is it? Letter from a Summoner. Was first published as part of the Shinso Kaimei Dokuhan for episode 3 on November 25th, 2008. It was re-released in The First and the Last Gift and converted to VN form in this port. A letter from an old summoner talking about the miracles of magic and the importance of vessels. It is meant for those who aspire to go down the same path.
The abundance of miracles brought to life by magic literally occur as miracles in the real world. Miracles that occur in the human world can perhaps be compared to seeing an ice pillar in the middle of summer. By its very nature, ice appearing midsummer is a miracle. With a magical miracle, ice forming midsummer under the blazing sun can be possible. But of course, it instantly melts under the hot summer sun, so the form of the ice and, by extension, the miracle both disappear. That's depressing though, so instead we can treat it as a magical quest to try keeping a huge sheet of ice from melting for a long while under the sun. To create an even bigger sheet of ice, even more magical power would be necessary. To keep the ice from melting for a longer period of time, even more magical power would be necessary. Think about it this way. You have magic that brings about a great miracle for one moment, as well as magic that brings about a tiny miracle for eternity. At first glance, the former appears to be flashier and far superior, but they're exactly the same in terms of both magical difficulty and the amount of magical power required. In this sense, it must be said that the latter of the two, summoning, which is the best contender for those who want to command a huge concentration of magic in a modest way, hasn't been very popular in the history of witchcraft. If you've seen the great piercing magic of a meteor falling upon Earth, then you may also want to see the great summoning technique that calls about a massive dragon. However, between just a single moment of great magic versus the miracle of calling about this massive dragon, and then using summoning to allow it to continue to exist, on top of that, the difficulty and burden are completely different. From this conclusion, we can say that the magical power of dropping a meteor to the place where its summoning was performed would be equal to calling up a palm-sized lizard at best. It would also be very weak, and at most you would probably invoke a fragile existence that would turn to ash upon contact with open air or sunlight. Certainly. This is why young people who love flashiness can so easily command flashy magic to their liking, while having no interest in burdening themselves with the modesty of summoning. Therefore, due to the low popularity of summoning, there are very few magicians in the human world who have become skilled enough to be called summoners. A fleeting miracle that disappears in the blink of an eye will leave an impact for an eternity. This is the true value of summoning. Now, returning to the original conversation, we may now understand that the magical power required for a miracle to manifest can be represented by a scale by time's duration of existence. Since we are going through the trouble of inviting guests from another world through summoning, the product should be nothing but beneficial and excellent. At that point, the scale figure cannot be underestimated. After all, who would choose to summon something insignificant? And moreover, if you do summon a beneficial existence, you would likely want to keep it in use for as long as possible. Basically, it's best to have the longest duration of existence possible. Understandably, it's quite difficult to balance out both scale and duration of existence. At this point, it may be easy to imagine the amount of extraordinary power a magician must have to deserve to be called a summoner. Unfortunately, such immense magical power cannot be attained even within an entire human's lifetime worth of training. Thus, what is most important is the concept of preparation. The main fuel for magical miracles is supplied through wild enthusiasm, which converts into magical power. If this is difficult to understand, just imagine your physical strength normally.
Mark Zero, furries have been around for a way longer time than Umineko.
Assume there is heavy luggage in front of you, and you have to carry it to its designated area.
Wither survives, thanks for becoming a channel member.
If you carry it there with no tricks or cheats involved, it will comparatively require both arm strength and strength of the body. However, if, for example, there was a cart, a lever system, or an easily graspable handle on the luggage, and you also know the procedure from past experience, carrying this luggage will be much less difficult. In magic, this same concept exists. Much of this consists of the preparation of magical circles and the usage of catalysts. Many of these preparations are very time-consuming, and it's no wonder. They're used to make up whatever of your own magical power you're lacking in. Aspiring magic users should not forget this. Magical power isn't just something you're born with. The effort you put in through fanatical obsession also leads to magical power. This is a bit of a digression, but I myself was born with no magical talent. Regardless of this, I acquired enough magical power to call myself a magician. Magical power is not determined by talent. Rather, it can be asserted that it depends on the extent of how long one is able to withstand their own insanity. Especially for summoners who aspire to use magic to maintain a miracle upon Earth for all eternity. This is something I don't want them to forget. Prepared with enough time and effort, such magical circles and catalysts are capable of raising the summoner's magical power to much higher levels than ever before. Again, this is my own experience. While summoning, to greatly increase the success rate of the summon, it is crucial to prepare a certain object. Objects like these are called vessels. Vessels, simply put, allow guests from another world to temporarily lodge in ours. If you excel in Western magic, it is imaginable that you may be able to blow life into a clay doll in order to summon a golem of sorts in a ritual. The clay doll in this ritual is essentially a vessel. Let's return to the beginning of our conversation regarding ice forming midsummer. Under the blazing midsummer sun, any ice that would be summoned would of course melt away within the blink of an eye. However, if this ice were to be summoned within a prepared cooler box that could block out the heat and rays of the sun, and if it were compared with the time that these preparations weren't made, it would take much longer for it to melt. Ice should now be able to continue to exist midsummer. To visitors from another world, the world of humans is essentially similar to that blazing sun. To manifest there, they would need a maintaining vessel. Needless to say, if you're trying to summon a visitor from another world without being competent enough in summoning, they will not reach the domain of humans, but instead, the void. So long as a human is aware that they were born in the human world, it would be wise for them to give up the far-off dream of even calling something to the void without preparing a vessel. Vessels should also be suitable for calling up the visitor in question. The more suitable the vessel is, the more powerful the manifestation will be. If you were to summon a great being while using an unbecoming vessel, one that prevents their greatness from manifesting, it would be absolutely blasphemous. The stronger the being is, the stronger the vessel should be. The wiser the being is, the wiser the vessel should be. An excellent vessel is comfortable for denizens of another world, even if just anything is summoned, and this resident from another world, along with the miracle they bring, continues to exist. The chances this existence could become what should be acknowledged as a so-called magic item is not small at all. Spending half a lifetime seeking a fitting vessel for the sake of a great summon is to be expected. The persistent madness from spending your life seeking the vessel out will always lead into more magical power. Decide your fate, and do not waste your time. Aspiring summoners don't just need practice, they must have interest in their vessels too. Feeling like you can achieve anything with your own magical power is a fallacy only those with youthful ignorance can believe. These are a few words from a senior summoner. One instant of passion won't do it. I want you to perform a wonderful summon, while being prudent in making preparations through persistent ambition. I believe without a doubt that an unknown guest from another world will give you valuable and lifelong experience.
Ha-cha-cha. Thanks for the insight, Kinzo. But, unfortunately, I hate listening to you for a very long time. So... God damn it. Click on the fucking window, please. Okay, thank you. So next... Oh boy. Okay. This one. There's a certain visual in this one that, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. You're gonna know what it is when you see it. I don't want you to think too hard about it. I really don't want you to think too hard about it. Just take it from me, trust me, please don't think too hard about it. But anyway, and I'm gonna blur this card until we actually get into it because, I don't want you to be, like, thrown off before we actually see it. A certain witch hunter's interview tape was first published as part of the Shinso Kaimei Dokuhan for episode 4 on April 17th, 2009. It was re-released in The First and the Last Gift and converted to VN form in this port. And let's just go ahead and get into it without...
What do you think of the theory that the Ushiramiya gold is nothing but a sham built on the use of a single gold bar? People jeered at that theory back in the day. Mr. Ushiramiya allegedly showed the pile of gold to the president of Marusu and other fixers in the financial world and let them take an ingot back for appraisal in order to win their trust.
So, just so anybody who's listening to this and didn't look at any of the things a second, or well, didn't see the description especially, so this conversation is between just like some random dude that we don't know the identity of and one of the witch hunters in the future that is trying to deduce the mystery of Rokenjima. And so this is a guy named Mikami who is in the witch hunters group.
In other words, only a single bar has actually been appraised. So, you're saying there's a possibility that people with credibility in the financial sector may have colluded with Mr. Ushiramiya to construct this illusion of the gold, eh? One modern theory is that Mr. Ushiramiya may never have owned the 10 tons of gold from the witch in the first place. Even back then, those who had their doubts about the Ushiramiya gold said the same thing. They insisted it was a once-in-a-lifetime large-scale scam perpetuated by the last head of the declining Ushiramiya family. The Ushiramiya family wouldn't have been declining in the first place if they were in possession of 10 tons of gold, right? Indeed. That's why ever since then there's been a huge commotion about the source of the 10 tons of gold. Back during the war, Mr. Ushiramiya was no more than a low-ranking officer with no special capability. So there were musings that he may have perhaps gotten the gold from the US Army. From the US Army? That's baseless speculation, of course, but the post-war turmoil gave birth to many such legends, like General Yamashita's gold or the gold of the Romanov family. Those tales would be laughed off today, but back in those days they still held credibility. In fact, there are a lot of people out there who were able to amass great wealth by successfully maneuvering through the post-war chaos, aren't there?
Yes, To people who are confused, yes, this is young Kinzo. This is him during wartime. This is what he looked like.
Indeed. So, by slapping together those two key terms, the army and the gold, these stories could maintain credibility despite how dubious they sounded. And then U.S. Army officers were supposedly plotting to embezzle gold obtained by the Japanese army during the war. Rumor was Mr. Ushiromiya may have had a tunnel to liquidate those assets. Perhaps it's hard to imagine now, but at the time, Mr. Ushiromiya had connections to the GHQ. And he also leveraged the power of the GHQ to acquire Rokenjima, didn't he? Yes. Mr. Ushiromiya's rapid accumulation of financial power after the war was all thanks to his connections with the GHQ. He was also one of the first to gain information about the Korean War, and you could say that he was one of the businessmen who benefited most from emergency time demand. So, for people who knew Mr. Ushiromiya at the time, it didn't seem at all odd for him to have secretly obtained 10 tons of gold by means that could not be disclosed. Some thought so, others didn't. And because of that, debate over the authenticity of the Ushiromiya gold gave people quite a shock.
Like I said, yeah, that's why I said at the beginning of the story, don't think too hard about it.
The president of Marusu was one of the first fixers to believe the story of the Ushiromiya gold, right? Yes. He was a big shot who had close ties to the Ushiromiya family for generations. I can assure you nobody would have believed the story if not for his endorsement. But how could the president be so certain that the 10 tons of gold were legitimate, using such a dubious method of only appraising a single bar? Regardless of how close they were, if it turned out to be a scam, it would have greatly damaged his public credibility. I just can't see how that would be strong enough evidence to convince a man of his renown.
Neon Roses with the $5. Him and Battler do look similar. Yeah, they've been compared a lot of times, so...
Those who were skeptical or held ill will toward Mr. Ushiromiya argued as much, that the president of Marusu was either bought out or deceived into a scam. So at the time, Mr. Ushiromiya's collateral gold was a bewitching too-good-to-be-true tale. In the end, Mr. Ushiromiya received huge investments from people who didn't question the veracity of the legend of the gold, which he then used to turn profits on the Korean War demand and successfully repaid his debts. Right. Even if it was a scam, he was able to amass enormous wealth, revitalize House Ushiromiya, and pay off all of his outstanding debts. Some admired his boldness and bolstered the theory that he received huge loans from non-existent gold. They were amused by the checkered life of a man who restored his family's status. So in the end, the legend of the gold is not but an illusion, and Mr. Ushiromiya is no more than a gambler who won the bet of a lifetime? I don't know. Unless the Ushiromiya gold can be exposed to the light of day, it won't be anything more than an illusion. However, while it's true that the president of Marusu was a daring man, he wasn't one to trust unconditionally. Anyway.
It's... not seeing them throws me off so much with the text boxes sometimes.
If he could convince the president to trust him, or deceive him somehow, then the illusion of the Ushiromiya gold would be complete, right? So, are you a denier of the Ushiromiya gold? Oh, no. I wanted to ask you what you thought of that theory. I have no evidence that would convince me to deny it. I myself am convinced of the legend of the Ushiromiya gold. I have several lines of reasoning that led me to believe it, but there's no direct evidence for any of it. So you probably won't be convinced no matter how much I tell you. My apologies if I've misled you. Denying the Ushiromiya gold is a popular theory, so I was wondering if I could ask for any theories that might raise questions about it. First, there's one thing I'd like to make clear. People today consider the president of Marusu a daring man, but that notion is greatly exaggerated. As if he was the type to be convinced by a single gold ingot or enough of a gambler to take a significantly risky investment in order to reap huge returns later. But that's a misunderstanding born in hindsight. The president is indeed known for boldness, but that's in the context of a businessman. That doesn't mean he's a patsy who would be swayed by a single bar of gold. And yet he was the first to trust it and make a huge investment, right? We believe that he was presented with credible evidence. First of all, the story that the Marusu president tells today is very different from what he said at the time. Can you elaborate? Modern theories are crafted by fixers who deny the gold with the aim of undermining Mr. Ushiromiya. Because the president never directly said, "I trusted him based on that single bar of gold back then." So you're saying he was presented with more evidence than that single gold bar?
Shortly after the president passed away, I heard a story from someone who was close to him back then. And I mean no disrespect for the president when I say this. The president wasn't nearly as daring as they say. He was the type to knock on a stone bridge before crossing it. His manner of eating and drinking was indeed quite bold, though. That's probably where that image came from. But when it came to money, he was the opposite of daring.
If he truly was as prudent as you say, why would he believe it?
I also heard from that same source that the president of Marusu alone was somehow guaranteed collateral.
Guaranteed collateral?
Yes. Mr. Ushiromiya wanted to win the president's trust, so he needed to get him on board with the story at any cost. That's why he secretly offered the president especially favorable conditions.
You mean he was guaranteed repayment from other fixers' investments, like in a pyramid scheme?
Nothing like that. The president's faction ultimately made up 40% of the total funds, but 10% of that was his own personal investment. 10%. That means he entrusted an amount worth 1 ton of gold.
1 ton of gold? That's 2 billion yen by today's rates, isn't it?
The gold was eventually returned to the now wealthy Mr. Ushiromiya, but for a time it was supposedly placed in the president's custody. Unfortunately, I did not see it myself, but people who were particularly close to him at the time claimed to have witnessed it.
Then, if that story is to be believed, at least 1 ton of the gold is real?
If the president's story is really true... Oh, my apologies. Of course I believe the story myself. The president was blindfolded and taken to a secret storehouse on Rokenjima where Mr. Ushiromiya actually showed him the 10 tons of gold, and he was given a 1-ton portion of that pile. Then
later, that 1 ton was returned to Mr. Ushiromiya.
Yes, Mr. Ushiromiya succeeded with his business endeavors and repaid his loan with interest. After the president passed away and his inheritance was distributed, one piece of evidence was left behind supporting the Ushiromiya gold. A single 10-kilogram ingot was found. He was probably allowed to keep it as a memento.
Because without the president's cooperation, he never would have won the trust of other fixers.
Perhaps it was a way of rewarding or showing gratitude for that. That's how I see it. Unfortunately, that gold bar was later lost. No photos of it remain, but plenty of family members and related parties claim to have seen it.
I see. So you're skeptical of Mr. Ushiromiya's 10 tons of gold, but you think it's worth believing in 1 ton of it?
Gambling is a poor man's game. The more money you have, the better. Businessmen won't move money unless they're certain it's guaranteed. That's how I see the president's 10%. In other words, I'm convinced that 1 ton of gold truly did exist. Plus, there was a risk that the president of Marusu would be declared a fraud in the event that Mr. Ushiromiya's business endeavors failed. And at the time, the president took the initiative, donning a propaganda role for the Ushiromiya gold. When we consider that,
risk avoidance is an unshakable rule of the rich. So you're saying the president was absolutely certain that the 10 tons of gold were real?
Right. Those without money wouldn't understand. But even without seeing it themselves, anyone who truly knows money can be confident in the gold simply based on the president's actions.
As a poor man myself, I can't imagine how someone would invest such a large sum of money based on just a story of the gold.
When you reach a certain level of wealth, you start to care less about the money itself and more about appearances and what will happen after you die. It's a poor man's way of thinking to only care about things that can be mended while you're alive. The rich seek to live a life where their reputation will remain intact even after death.
So you're saying that he wouldn't go along with something if he might be declared a fraud even after his death?
Yes. So the president must have received enough proof to make him certain that the 10 tons of gold were real. And depending on how well you understand what sort of man the president was, it'll influence your confidence in him.
That's why you say you can trust him?
Yes. And I understand why you can't.
Oh dear. It hurts to hear you say that. But if you had some clear evidence to show me, I'd be willing to change my mind.
Listen, there are a great many things in this world that can't be proven with physical evidence. Do you love your wife, for example?
Unfortunately, I'm single.
A wedding ring is proof that two people made a vow of eternal love to one another. But even that doesn't stop people from cheating, does it? If you have to ask your partner to show proof that you both still love one another, isn't that itself proof that your love has waned?
Indeed.
When a man's wife tells him, "I love you," he has no choice but to take her at his word. Take her at her word. Surely she feels the same way. Even when you're 50, even when you're 60, every morning begins with a kiss. But if you say that's merely a habit and the love is long gone, then it's already beyond help.
You're saying without love it cannot be seen?
Oh, you already know the catchphrase. That's what I'm talking about. The people who trusted and never stopped respecting the president really could see that 10 tons of gold. And the people who don't like the president or Mr. Shiromiya couldn't. Isn't that how it works?
But if we could at least find that one ingot among the president's belongings, it would make the story that much more credible.
There's a rumor, though, that Mr. Shiromiya's son Kraus got his hands on it. Apparently, Kraus himself was searching for the secret gold stash. They say the bar convinced him that the 10 tons were real, and he began searching all across Rokenjima. Unfortunately, Kraus himself passed away. So naturally, that gold oh no, wait, that's the other guy.
Unfortunately, Kraus himself passed away, so naturally that gold ingot became buried in the dark.
Did you know that in the old days, Rokenjima used to be known as Akuji Kijima?
Yes. Then the name became Azukijima, and then finally Rokenjima.
That's right. It's an island where evil spirits dwell, who devour the souls of men. No, not just devour them. Gobble them down in one bite. I'm sure that at the time, evidence supporting the existence of the gold did exist. There were plenty of witnesses, so the gold was considered real. But over the years, that evidence was lost, swallowed by time. And as a result, the legend of the gold, which would otherwise be taken as fact, has come under scrutiny.
Indeed, that's one way to put it.
I love my wife. To this day, I've never once suspected her of cheating, and I'd be honored to die the same day as her, laying in the same bed. We can be proud that we lived a long life, and tell our children and grandchildren that we lived the best life we could. And when they hear that, our children and grandchildren will be telling people for years that we lived the happiest life. But there will come a day when everyone who heard the story directly will have passed away. What if my descendants said that their great-grandfather was unhappy, that he and his wife were unfaithful and didn't get along? What can I leave behind as proof to the contrary? It's meaningless. No matter what I leave behind, it won't get through to people in the future who harbor doubt. The truth of Rokenjima that you're searching for no longer exists. So much time has passed since then. All the evidence has disappeared. So you're free to decide whatever you prefer. Did the gold exist or not? Which message bottles are real and which are fake? What did and didn't happen on the day of the incident? Choose whatever you'd prefer. But no matter what you decide, it won't change the truth of what happened back then.
Your words are painful to hear. Still, for those of us who wish to seek the truth, what should we use as a guideline for exploring the past?
Your heart. The human heart remains unwavering, no matter how much time has passed.
The heart, huh? Another abstract concept.
You need evidence because you want to know what happened. But if instead you tried to learn what they were thinking, you'd inevitably be able to figure out what transpired, don't you think?
You mean turning the chessboard over?
What the heck is that?
Oh, sorry. Basically, it means trying to read your opponent's moves. Seeking to find out what the enemy is thinking.
Oh, so that's what you're getting at. Yes, I think that's a valid way to go about it. What were Mr. Shiromiya and the people close to him thinking? How did they want to live? Unless you consider those things, you'll never arrive at the truth.
Without love, it cannot be seen.
A pretentious line again. Still, that's fine. What ridiculous things would oddball rich people want to do? You'll never see it if that's your way of thinking. Take off those rose-tinted glasses telling you that the rich are eccentric and weird and that you can't tell what they're thinking. I suggest you think of them as individual human beings.
Shouldn't that be sufficient?
Oh no, wait, that's me. Shouldn't that be sufficient? By dealing with people in that manner, my childhood friend can save face, don't you think?
Thank you very much. I'll send you a copy of the manuscript once it's been drafted, so please give it a look.
Oh no, it's fine. Checking it is a pain, so feel free to publish as is. It doesn't matter how you phrase it. People with bad intentions will interpret it their own way. Oh, but please do keep this anonymous. That was one of my conditions for this interview.
Right, I'd never forget. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Could you stop the tape now? No matter how many times I've done recordings,
There is no confirmed year for that, Norsad. They don't tell you. Alright. So, now that we've done that, let's move on to... Oh, okay, it's right here. No, Wooly, the visual that I didn't want people to think too much about was Kinzo's younger appearance. Anywho, let's move on to The Witch's Tanabata Isn't Sweet, which was first published as a booklet on June 28th, 2009, during the Hinamizawa Village People's Assembly 2 event. It was republished in The First and the Last Gift, and converted to visual novel form in Umineko Tsubasa. Writing one's wishes on a bamboo leaf and hanging them on a bed is certainly a familiar custom to anyone from the human world. However, for a witch, Tanabata is quite different. Oh boy. This is definitely one of the most important of today. And just so you guys have a heads up, since I told you guys that this stream was going to be shorter, the next story after this one is actually going to be the last one that we're going to be doing today. But we do, of course, still have, I promised that I would talk about my Umineko OC, so I'll do that after, and I'll also do theories and art as usual. Light Blooms with the $5. This one is one of my favorites. Yeah, it hits. It definitely hits. Very soon it will be Tanabata, a familiar event marked by the hanging of pieces of paper with wishes written on them on bamboo branches. It is not often that such wishes are granted, but sometimes spirits and souls of the dead, or even demons and witches, will find the wishes by chance and grant them. Ushiramiya Maria was supposed to write such a wish at school. There was plenty of paper, so students were allowed to use several pieces, if they could think of enough wishes. At first, everyone was excited about writing a lot of them. But despite their youth, after writing 2 or 3 wishes, they have come to realize to their own surprise that they could only write trivial things such as, I want to be rich, or I want to become such and such. However, unlike the other children, Maria thought the writing one wish wasn't enough.
I wish that my mama would come home every day.
Rosa was busy with work and had to spend the night there often. Just like a child should, Maria understood that it was just part of her mother's job. But that didn't mean that she didn't feel lonely. So she wrote down her simple wish about her mother coming home every day. By the way, have you ever thought about who grants the wishes written on these pieces of paper? There are several theories. The Tanabata legend and the various ancient Japanese gods, but all of those are in fact false. What grants the wish is that which is closest to the person who wrote it. It can be the so-called guardian spirits or ancestors of the person. For those without a guardian spirit, it might be their parents or a close friend. And to Maria, that which was even closer than her mother. So in Maria's dreams on the night of the Tanabata, Beato accepted the wish that the girl had entrusted to that piece of paper and read it.
Maria. Can you hear me? Oh, it's Beatrice. Beatrice came to Maria in a dream. Indeed. Today you hung a Tanabata wish on some bamboo, did you not? That wish has reached me, and I have come to grant it. Really? Thanks, Beatrice. Now let us discuss your wish. You've wished for your mother to come home every day, but are you quite sure? Yes, just that alone will make me happy.
Beato crossed her arms and mumbled to herself. It seemed as if she was considering turning Maria down and was thinking of how to best explain herself. When Maria saw Beato, whom she considered all-powerful, make such a face, she grew anxious.
Is having Mama come back home a difficult wish to grant?
No. Quite honestly, it's a piece of cake. But Maria,
Consider it carefully. Is her merely coming home actually enough? Should your wish be granted, then from tomorrow on your mother will return home every single day. However, she may not always be in a good mood, understand? Rosa was the CEO of a small business. So far, things have been going badly, and she was in a precarious financial situation every day. She was desperately trying to expand her business by clinging on to any order she could get, and using that to bring in more requests little by little. If Rosa would always come home in such a state, it wouldn't end well. In order for Rosa's company to achieve financial security overnight, she'd have to make the wish herself and make it clear exactly what the magic should be used to change. So even if the magic from Maria's wish could reach Rosa, it would not extend to Rosa's company. In short, if Maria's wish was to be granted with the way she phrased it, Rosa would either lose her job or her entire company would collapse. That likely wasn't something Maria actually wanted. Hence, Beato visited Maria in her dream to inquire about her true desires. So Maria, make your true wish heard. Your mother merely coming home is not quite enough for you, is it?
No. Just having Mama come home every day is not enough.
Indeed. Your real wish comes after. The wish of her mother coming home was only the beginning. Her true desires weren't quite so abstract. Normally, if the ones granting the wish were mischievous, they would grant it no matter how abstract it was. But Beato was Maria's close friend and would never play such a trick on her, because she knew that Maria's true wish wasn't quite so simple. Your mother shall return home. And so I ask, what next?
Mama will always come home early and make dinner with Maria.
What next?
We'll have fun talking together, peeling potatoes and setting up dishes. Then we'll watch TV together, laughing at some funny show and enjoying our delicious meal. That will be so much fun. I'm sure that will make me happy.
She didn't just want her mother to come home every day. The happiness painted in Maria's mind continued far beyond that. It was a wonderful time just to imagine. Two people cooking a meal and enjoying it together while having some small talk. Maria never once asked Rosa to eat out. Just eating at the table with her mother was more than enough. It made her happy whenever it happened, but it was a very rare occurrence. Maria simply wanted to have that every day. The glimpse of that dream world made Beato smile warmly. Maria was impatient to have her wish be granted, but Beato merely giggled and spoke yet again. What next? I'd imagine your dream extends beyond a mere dinner. So for me to consider granting your wish, I need to hear more of it. You two will enjoy a nice dinner together. What next? It was only natural. Fun meals between mother and daughter were but a part of a healthy family lifestyle. I'll make tea for Mama.
As we drink our delicious tea together, we'll watch TV. Then I'll heat up the bath and we'll bathe together. I'll even put in one of those bubble-filled bath bombs that Mama loves. Then we'll splash around having fun in the tub and make even more bubbles. Then she'll kiss me goodnight, get things ready for tomorrow, and go to sleep. Then the sun will rise, I'll wake up early, and wake Mama up if she oversleeps. Good morning, Sakataro. Yes, I know. I'll bring Mama something to drink. I'll bring her some original blend vegetable juice in a chilled cup. If she drinks it right after waking up, she'll feel refreshed and smile. I'll put bread in the toaster and cover it with rose-flavored jam. Then I'll wait for the morning paper and set it on Mama's chair. Alright, I'll be back soon, Sakataro. After a morning like this, I'll be happy all day long at school. School's fun too, and everyone in the rabbit band is always happy as well. They make a real ruckus in my pocket. I'm sure Mama will be successful at work. I'm sure that she'll come back home in a good mood. I'm sure that we will always be happy every day.
I could hear a monotonous buzzing electronic noise. It was coming from my alarm clock. Oh, I must have been dreaming. I wish that Mama will come home every day. A small piece of bamboo with that piece of paper hanging from it was beside my pillow. I wonder if that's why I had such a strange dream. Beatrice came from Rokenjima,
and clearly showed me a world that I couldn't even see when I was writing that wish of mine down. A world in which me and my mama would simply come home every day has expanded more and more into infinity. No, that's not all. Until a second ago, I really was in that world. I'm sure that just for the smallest of moments, Beatrice granted my wish for me using her magic. She had endlessly expanded my unambitious wish. After all, Beatrice is the endless witch. And if the world she has shown me was made by magic, as a witch apprentice, I should be able to create it myself. That happy dream which was so faint that the alarm had drawn me away from it, I should be able to make into something real. As a witch apprentice, Maria knew how to make that magic a reality. Oh, by believing.
Yes, belief is what grants magic its power. And thus Maria strongly believed that it wasn't a dream, but something that actually came true. What's the first thing I should do on this happy morning?
That's right. First, I'll wake Mama up. I'll bring her a cup of chilled vegetable juice.
Maria jumped out of bed and headed for the kitchen. She wanted to let her mother know that this was the start of a happy morning, which would lead to happy days today and tomorrow.
Thank you, Beatrice. Thank you for making my Tanabata wish come true.
The end. Sorry, hold on just a second, I gotta answer a text from Austin. Okay. I will have to answer another text in probably just a second.
The heck was that? It seems like Beato never actually granted her wish.
BERNKASTEL'S shrugged mockingly. LAMBDADELTA, who had been chuckling at how sweet the story had been, looked annoyed at this wet blanket response. Beatrice noticed Bern's lack of understanding.
That's untrue. I've woven a fragment of the world of Maria's desires and given her a key to unlock it. The only thing Maria has to do now is unlock the door.
Even if you made her happy, she made her wish come true herself. You did nothing.
Bern, you're acting like a spoiled child. There's no way for a wish to be granted unless there's a strong desire for it to come true.
Humans with a will that strong will eventually grant that wish themselves, regardless of whether a witch grants it or not. There's no point in witches getting involved at all.
You see, I wouldn't want to grant someone's wish if they weren't certain about it.
Kamikaze with the 20. This isn't money, it's hugs for Maria she deserves. We are transferring all of that financial power into hugs for Maria, yes. We are all doing this right now.
Exactly. Certainty and willpower creates an absolutely certain future. Our infatuation with the strength of that will leads us to just unconsciously lend them our power, right? Yes, precisely. It wouldn't be interesting if the wish weren't bold enough to make us unconsciously want to lend our power. Bern, you take people's efforts and the strength of their wishes a little too lightly.
Beato and Lambda kept complaining about Bern's utter lack of comprehension.
Oh? Then Lambda, how would you grant a wish? Have you also granted someone's wish on this Tanabata?
Oh? What say...
Oh wait, that's Beatrice.
Oh? What say you, Lady LAMBDADELTA? I believe that one so beloved by humans should be an expert in granting wishes. Me? Keep it simple. I just encourage everyone to give it their all, fairly and equally.
LAMBDADELTA is the Witch of Certainty. She praises the willpower to certainly succeed until the very end. Despite possessing both innocence and cruelty, she also has a more tender side with regards to people's passion.
The most common wishes I get are, I want to be super rich, or I want a promotion, or I want to solidify my current position. Things like that. Just now you said that you fairly and equally encourage everyone, but do you really grant such impudent wishes for everyone? Of course not. I avoid granting those wishes to everyone in equal measure, but in exchange I watch over the ones who don't slack off in their efforts until their wish is realized, also in equal measure.
Lambda will never smile upon humans who wish to become super rich, but do nothing to work towards that goal. Also, she will never grant success to those who only tried to become super rich once. What LAMBDADELTA bestows is not the fulfillment of the wish, but the power needed to achieve it.
Anyone could actually grant the wish of, I want to be super rich, you know. Obviously, it would take some effort. What I guarantee is that the effort will not go to waste.
However, you make no guarantees about the necessary amount of effort, huh?
I see. Effort will eventually bring fruit, but you can't promise when. You're quite cruel. Really? You don't think the guarantee that your efforts will bring fruit is worth much? You see, I like hardworking people. I like people who throw away everything for their goal and who are capable of abandoning themselves to unending self-torment to achieve it.
Those who make their wishes to LAMBDADELTA must strongly believe that those wishes will be granted eventually. Without the strength of heart, the wishes would never reach LAMBDADELTA and would never be granted the help of the magic of certainty. And to those people who certainly never give up and do not forget the meaning of hard work, it's blasphemous to all their hard work to have their wishes simply be granted by another person. That's why LAMBDADELTA would never dirty their precious hard work. All she promises is that certain determination will lead to a certain success. And just that is enough. Your wish will certainly be granted, no matter what it is, someday. Even if you're just a child who wishes to become a god.
So that is the magic of certainty. A magnificent power that is in no way inferior to my own endless magic. Yeah, right, it's way better. You're rock. I'm paper. Double-twisted, super thick super paper.
That just means you're a wound-up idiot. Well, I suppose that fits.
Right?
With Lambda being the only one who didn't get it, the three witches cackled together. Lady
Bernkastel, are you not the witch who controls miracles?
There must be as many humans who want... But must be as many humans who want you to grant a wish as there are stars in the sky.
Yeah, miracles. Those are not something that should ever be granted. Though I imagine the overly ambitious yet lazy people would love that. But that's no good at all. Those filthy wishes are unfitting for someone as wonderful as you, Bern. Before you look at the wishes of people like that, grant my wish first, Bern!
Let go of me, you're too warm. Miracles are called miracles because they don't happen. To me, granting a wish is in itself a miracle.
Human passions don't generally amount to much to us witches, but it seems they don't amount to anything at all to you.
Hold on just a second. Have to answer this again. I don't want to hear that from someone who made a name for herself through endless cruelty.
Not much I can say against that. I may have been too uncharacteristically soft today. Well, you are really easygoing when it comes to Maria, Beato. You should spread that around to more people besides Maria. You're like sugar leftovers.
Exactly. It's not just Beato either. You too have been easygoing today, Lambda. Both of you are a little too sweet for my liking today. Dried plums go better with tea than sugar.
Bern, it's not like Tanabata comes every day, right? Go and grant at least one wish.
Nope. With a fed-up look on her face, Bern disappeared. She had lost her humanity over 1,000 years. She no longer enjoyed sweet and heartwarming stories. Beato laughed coldly, as though this was the way a witch was supposed to be. In her expression, no longer was there any of the warmth that had woven Maria's happiness. You're telling me to grant at least one wish because it's Tanabata? I'm a witch. The witch of miracles. No matter the effort, luck, or enthusiasm. I know the miracle... Wow. Did the fucking fan translators literally put this typo in on purpose? Did they literally put the fucking Ace Attorney meme typo in here on purpose? Oh my god. I know the miracle never happened.
The miracle never happens.
Precisely because I know that, I am the Witch of Miracles. So what kind of a wish must I grant? So what if it's Tanabata? They're just being a little too festive. Expanding a happy dream into infinity, efforts which would certainly bring fruit. All of this is so sickening that I'm about to vomit. Ugh, how disgusting. Oh, you think so too? Well then, allow me to demonstrate how witches must truly grant wishes, because you're obviously looking forward to that. Little Anjay took a small piece of paper at school and wrote, "I wish for my family to come home," on it. Hung it on a bamboo branch and fastened that to her bedpost. Then she clapped and made her wish again so that it would come true. Thanks to her strong wish, Bern had appeared to her in the land of illusions, the world of sleep. Hello, Anjay. So, this is your wish?
Yeah. Who are you?
I will not tell you my name. This is the world of slumber, a world like the receding tide. Should I tell you my name, you'll forget it anyway. Well then, your wish. I wouldn't mind causing a miracle and granting your wish.
Really? Really?
Yes. Really. However, magic is something that will not be granted unless you wish for it strongly and work hard for it. Lambda explained the basics to me. Honestly, such a pain. Anja couldn't hide her surprise seeing this witch intrude her dream and claim that she would grant her wish. However, she felt that the witch wanted something in exchange for the miracle. But Anja decided that she would do anything if her family would come back home. I'll work as hard as you want me.
Oh wait, okay.
I'll work as hard as you want me to, Miss Witch. Please grant my wish.
Very well. If you follow my instructions every single day. If your desire for that wish to be truly granted reaches the heavens, I will certainly visit you again and grant it. But I won't say when that shall be. It could be a year, 5, or even 10 or more. In that regard, I guess I'm about the same as Lambda. I will grant it in the end, so nothing else matters, right?
Then, Miss Witch, what should I do?
Today, your adoptive mother, Shiromiya Eva, has told you to consider her as a replacement for your mother, and that you should count on her for anything at all, didn't she?
Yeah.
Ava did say that to Anjay today. As aunt and niece, we are connected. But we are also connected in that I have lost my child, and you have lost your parents. And we cannot trick ourselves into thinking of each other as replacements for our lost family. Even so, I consider you my own daughter. Cross Trash saying, God if only. No. Not if only. Not if only. Because, guess what actually fucking happened? Even so, please, allow me to ask you to consider myself your mother and count on me for anything you might need. After saying that, Ava hugged Anjay. To little Anjay, Mom was Mom, and Ava definitely wasn't. However, she understood that the meaning of those words, and the affection verging on sorrow. But as would be expected from a child her age, she needed some time to accept this.
Yeah, Auntie Ava did say that.
If you truly, from the bottom of your heart, wish for your real mother to return, then you must never let anyone else take her place. If her place in your heart is taken by someone else, she will never come back home. To little Anjay, that seemed very logical. If she accepted someone who wasn't her mother as her mother, her real mother would have no home to return to. All right. That's important for your real mother, is it not?
Yeah, Miss Witch. Auntie Ava's just Auntie Ava. I will never call her my mother.
Wonderful. But Aunt Ava also told you something else, did she not? Right now, we cannot forget the scars in our hearts. And together we've forgotten how to smile. However, I believe that this would surely sadden my child. And your parents. Wouldn't it be all right if we could remember how to smile, if only a little bit at a time? Of course, we can't do this right away. We have to remember our forgotten smiles bit by bit. That's why I've decided that from today on, I'll try my best to practice smiling. That's weird, isn't it? Anje-chan, if you ever remember how to smile, please show me too. I feel that if we do that, we'll be able to remember how to smile even better.
Yes, Auntie Ava definitely said that.
If you want your family to come back, your pain and sorrow must be strong enough to lift that wish to the heavens. Until that day, you must not smile even once.
Not even once.
Exactly. I'll be watching over you. If it seems like a smile is going to come upon your face even once, I'll consider that a sign you no longer care about your family coming back. I promise you that in that case, they will never return.
I don't want that. I will never smile again. Not until Dad, Mom, and Oni-chan come home.
You must never feel happiness. You must never experience joy. You must never forget the sorrow of losing your family. And you must stay away from the demon who will try to make you forget that, who will try and deceive you. Ushirimiya Ava will try and crush that resolve many times with her sweet words, but you must never listen to them, all right? Ava is a demon who will try and steal away your family for all eternity. No, she actually did steal them away.
My resolve won't break. Until my wish comes true, I will certainly not listen to Auntie Ava's words. Please grant my wish, Miss Witch.
Fine. As long as you continue to keep your promise, firmly and forever, then in the end I will definitely appear before you and grant your wish.
Kitty with the 2 pounds, suffering builds character, said Bern. Yeah, she has a lot of charged feelings about that, doesn't she? Ooh.
It's all right. I will definitely not ignore your pure-hearted resolve.
The next morning, Ushirimiya Anje clearly announced it to Ava. Those words were a spell that would bring forth the miracle of her family coming home, and they were also a curse that the cruel witch had made her say. On that day, those words have forever stolen the smiles from both Ava and Anje.
Isn't this kind of Tanabata much more pleasant for a witch? This won't get boring. Not for a while. These kinds of fragments exist, but what do you think? All of you who like these kinds of ill-natured stories would much prefer something this bitter, right? Will this do, Beata? All I really did was make it a tale more suited to my role. All right.
Okay. I'm gonna have to prepare myself for this next one because, Jesus fuck. Okay. This is the last one that we are doing today, and I have a somewhat lengthier introduction for it. And boy, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you guys right now, I'm just gonna warn you, it's probably going to make me cry, like genuinely. Not acting cry, this is probably going to make me cry in real life. because it makes me cry every fucking time I read it. Even when I was setting up the stream today and previewing it, it made me cry. So, our last story for today is Arigato for 556, released as a booklet alongside episode 5 at Comiket 76 on August 15th, 2009, which was my 13th birthday. Fun fact. It was republished in The First and the Last Gift and converted to VN form in Umineko Tsubasa. Some important additional context here before we go, but this story was published shortly after, and I'm gonna mute the music for this actually, we gotta be serious about this for a second. So, this story was published shortly after Ryukishi's friend BT, who also served as his webmaster, editor, and debug tool writer, passed away on July 10th. To quote Ryukishi from the time, "He was not only my best friend, but also my very first reader. I wrote both Higurashi and Umineko because I wanted to surprise him. During the several months that passed since that day, I forgot the joy of writing. However, I know better than anyone else that if I stopped writing because of him, he would be the most sad. So I must write, but he will no longer read it. I think I'll use today as a chance to set my heart back to square one. No, perhaps it's just the same as always. I think I'll start writing again for him to read. BT left behind more than his heart and feelings. The debug system he frequently remodeled is now an essential part of the way we complete these complicated projects in such a short period of time. We'll use that system in the upcoming crunch time. No, we'll probably keep on using it forever. I plan to continue working on these along with him forever. To all of you who socialized with BT at special events, thank you very much. He truly treasured all the unique gifts given to him, and he always had them arranged by his side. Also, he said that he enjoyed socializing with you more than anything else, and he would always participate in Dojin events no matter how busy he was. I am deeply grateful to all of our fans. Thank you very much. BT, thanks so much. If I hadn't met you, I wouldn't be who I am today. So if I stop writing, it will be as though I never met you. So I'll grit my teeth and write, as I remember what you taught me." $5.56 from Iconic Laser. Arigato. Yep. I am not crying yet, but I am close. This is not only important context that you should keep in mind for the story that we are about to read, but the course of Umineko as a whole would be drastically impacted by this event in ways I think will become clearer and clearer the further into the second half of this series we get. So, with that said, let's get into it. An old sister about the Chiester sisters. To everyone, thank you. The Chiester Sisters' Imperial Guards were supposedly a memorial corps formed in commemoration of the flight of the Red Dragon. However, that was merely a superstition. According to the Ministry of Defense, the formation and all operations of the Chiester Corps were carefully planned for. For 68 years, the Ministry has been gathering design documents from all domestic military magic manufacturers in order to create a new type of magical soldiers for the Imperial Guard. There were strict specifications set for this so-called 3F project. These specifications, namely, were first detection, first shot, and first kill. Certain convenience factors, such as the ease of maintenance and quick deployment, were also requested. At long last, two well-known companies, the RAC and Chiester, have offered to design a new model of magical lifeform, and submitted their respective design documents. The RAC have made impressive changes to the traditional Model M to bring it up to date with the new Imperial Guard specifications, putting emphasis specifically on fighting strength as not to tarnish the name of King Pendragon. In order to meet the 3F specification, the model was given overwhelming independent defensive capabilities and a tremendous capacity for onboard weaponry. This model could demonstrate heavy firepower even as just a single unit, and at least based on a design document, was powerful enough to rewrite the entire history of weapons. The Ministry was so obsessed with the words single unit and heavy firepower that Model M would almost certainly win the competition, even though there was no official word on that as of yet. On the other hand, the Chiester Company decided to emphasize quick maintenance, operation, and deployment. Contrary to the RAC's Model M, the Chiester series model was inexpensive, robust, and easy to deploy in large quantities. In order to meet the 3F specification, Chiester have decided to avoid single-unit implementation plans altogether. The Chiester series was developed with a unique communication ability that allowed them to coordinate matters of tactics. Despite the series having multiple advantages, the officials were under the impression that the minister intended to create individual units powerful enough to be King Pendragon's personal guard, so they haven't paid any mind to the Chiester design at all. However, that decision had to be reevaluated due to ongoing changes in the state of military equipment. Hell, known for its vast quantity of military resources, was feared as the greatest military power of the time. However, Heaven managed to rewrite military history in 1971 by successfully constructing the Spirit Particle Combat System. This allowed to completely bypass the usual military approach that relied entirely on brute force and strength. With this new system, the figure of a heavily armed lone hero became a thing of the past and was relegated to fairy tales and such. The Chiester Company was quick to react to the change and added anti-spirit particle combat capabilities to the Chiester series. This took the form of the most prominent feature of the Chiester series, the so-called rabbit ears. The RAC, meanwhile, could not modify the Model M's traditional hardware to include the new capabilities. Because of this, the rapidly evolving and adaptable system that Chiester had to offer was now on a whole different level. Additionally, in direct contrast with the Model M, Chiester has sacrificed the amount of pre-installed onboard equipment so that their model could specialize in stealth. In addition to that, the Chiester lobbyists were showing strong efforts. That year, the Minister of Defense made a substantial change to the 3F specification and declared anti-spirit particle combat measures to be a top priority. And thus, the previously overlooked Chiester series ended up in the limelight in just a single day. The final implementation of the Chiester series has been successful, and the company was given the privilege of naming this new series the Memorial Order, formed in commemoration of the flight of the Red Dragon. The Chiester sisters, being the first Imperial Guards to go against the conventional idea of being implemented as a single standalone units, were noticed by conservative government officials who were still failing to grasp the idea of the spirit particle combat system. They went on to immediately declare the Chiester series as cheap, primitive, obviously ineffective dolls. However, the heavily specialized modular designs allowed for a low manufacturing cost, simplified further development, as well as increased the speed of deployment. It eventually became obvious to everyone that choosing specialized units according to their respective abilities would allow to deal with any mission imaginable. The individual abilities of each Chiester unit was a far cry from those of the other heavily armed Imperial Guards. However, this squad of sisters formed from specialized soldiers, even with their own area of expertise, kept improving the results with each fight they participated in. The name Sisters was given to the Chiester units due to their powerful intercommunication capabilities. Chiester 410 was designed as a sniper. Aside from having a phenomenal firing range, she was equipped with a special analog radar. The spirit particles themselves provide precise information. With that in mind, their data should obviously be read digitally. However, the battlefield itself is analog, not digital. The possibility for unexpected circumstances outside of pure ones and zeros did exist. Chiester 410 was designed specifically to excel in that gray area. Early on, she was ranked quite low. During practice, her skills as a sniper were mediocre at best, and her peculiar personality didn't do her any favors either. She made her decisions based not so much on the information provided by friendly troops as on her own ideas, which led to her being thought of as a rogue who refused to follow orders. However, after she was paired with Chiester 45, who specialized in firing calculations, 410 started to rapidly improve. The following year, she participated in a war between several puppet nations and dramatically blossomed into an excellent field sniper. In just a week after taking up her post, she had achieved a grand victory against the 34th Automated Giant Squadron by using an armor-piercing sniping bow from a range of 1800 Merud, causing fatal damage to 2 units and disabling 1 unit's walking capacity. Her military achievements only kept increasing from that point on, and a year later she was promoted. Her former teacher was present on the promotion ceremony with a face full of shock and surprise. Thanks to the golden bow, the symbol of sniper's honor, her talents only grew further. She achieved all of that much faster than even the most elite snipers of the Chiester Imperial Guards. Or so they say, anyway. It's nice to think that 410's rare talent could bloom thanks to the excellent support provided by 45. However, as I said this, giving the credit to both of them, 410 burst into laughter and told me the truth. Oh, I guess this is probably from 00's perspective, actually.
You know, it's just so fun to just ignore the data that 45 has calculated so seriously and watch her huff and puff in anger, yeah? 410 is a meanie! I always work hard to give you the most precise calculations possible, and you just ignore them. Meanie! Your calculations are always so ridiculous, and I'm better off ignoring them anyway, yeah? What do you mean ridiculous? How cruel! I don't even remember when our last successful mission was. Everyone just criticizes us.
Let's talk about Chester 45 as well. 45 was specifically created for the purpose of spirit particle calculations during combat. Her calculations are meant to be ruthlessly exact, with not even a 1-bit margin for error. However, these digital measurements cannot be interpreted well by units designed to process analog data. Furthermore, she was weak and easily intimidated, which led to her being unsure of her own results. In a manner of speaking, this made her the worst measurer possible. Needless to say, her training record was poor as well, causing her peers in the Imperial Guard to entrust her with nothing but rear surveillance, treating her like baggage. Pairing 45 together with the rebellious 410 was interpreted by the majority as an attempt to get rid of the two most problematic Chester sisters. However, since they became a pair, they began to produce excellent results. I guess anything can happen in this world. I struggled to understand this for the longest time. However, I may have finally reached my answer as to why this strange duo became the amazing sniper combination that they are. I believe that that reason to be that 410 is the leader of the pair. Thanks to her stubbornness and disobedience, 410 was usually paired with more experienced soldiers who could monitor and control her. Even if 410 followed orders only half-heartedly, she still could not disobey her superiors. She couldn't act independently. However, 45 could not keep 410 under her control. This finally gave 410 the space she needed to demonstrate her true talent. Calling this independence is a bit of a stretch, though. Perhaps it would be more accurate to describe it as 410 running amok and ignoring 45's orders. So I thought that perhaps 410's recklessness is what allowed her capabilities as a sniper to blossom. However, that didn't seem to be the only reason. 410 liked to tease 45 by purposefully ignoring her measurements, yet she could still pull off very difficult attacks. Such astounding shots surprised and shocked 45. 410's self-satisfaction with this has further contributed to her military success. Honestly, 45 hated being treated like 410's toy. She was a nice and honest person, and she justly saw this mocking and harassing relationship as unfair to her. She has on several occasions petitioned to be paired up with someone other than 410. However, the headquarters were very well aware of the military success of this specific pairing, so her petitions were always denied. Ideally, both of them would be proud of the results they achieved, but 410's precise shooting was obviously the main point of interest for others. Therefore, many contributed their successes to 410 alone. Even 410 herself has once declared that to be the case. This obviously didn't make 45 very happy. She was completely overshadowed by 410. Since I was their superior, I felt responsible and decided to ask 410 why she treated her partner so harshly, and never even said a word of gratitude to her. Without 45, most of your shots would have failed. Shouldn't you thank her?
Nya. 00 is reading more of her lectures, nya.
410 stared at me blankly. 45 had her own share of problems, and I tried to explain to 410 that she should try to put her mind at ease. Looking a little indignant from hearing that, 45 spoke to me.
00, you don't get it, nya. Yes, I like to act big and boast about our victories, but I haven't once thought of them as my own. The credit always belongs to both of us, nya.
Really? It doesn't look like you honestly think that way.
Rude, nya. I always thought 45 to be my best partner, and I always will. With 45, I can do anything, nya. She's an irreplaceable friend. I always thought of us as an amazing team, nya.
Seeing her smile, I couldn't bring myself to tell her that 45 had petitioned for a partner change. So, you're actually thankful to 45?
Of course. She's my partner. It kind of pisses me off that you'd even doubt that, nya.
Instead of admonishing her, I should have really been admonishing myself. I finally understood the main point of difference between them. 410 is rebellious. She often exaggerates things and boasts. It seemed to me, and probably to most outsiders, that she was merely boasting of her own abilities. However, She knew that she couldn't do it without 45 and was trying to praise her as well. Not only that, but she acknowledges 45 as the best possible partner and hopes to remain by her side forever. But those feelings never reached 45, and that was a problem. She had just thought that she was incompetent and that 410 was mocking her and making fun of her. She thought that their success was only thanks to 410 alone, and that a more experienced Chiester could be more helpful to her as a partner to 410. So I spoke to 410 clearly. I told her that she should express her gratitude with words if she really is thankful.
But I don't want ya.
Why?
I appreciate your help. Thank you. That kind of thing is so embarrassing to actually put into words, you know? 45 and I are the best partners, so we understand each other without words.
The feelings were too complicated to put into words. If she did put them into words, it would dilute the raw emotion. Having told me this, 410 chose to ignore my advice. Because I'm blinded in my right eye, I became inefficient in my specialty of reconnaissance. So my final task seems to be keeping this troublesome pair of snipers in line. 410 was also aware of my blind spot, so she nimbly dodged my emotionally charged slap. Chiester 556 was created as a prototype for state-of-the-art weaponry, and thus she joined the Imperial Guards for experimental purposes. She specialized in fire support, or in other words, the heavy firepower. At the time, 410 had already achieved worldwide fame as a charismatic sniper, so the management believed that joining her up together with 556 and her new weaponry was a surefire way for 410 to achieve even greater victories.
Fire support? Who needs that? Our pair specializes in long-range attacks, so we're lacking in the ability to suppress enemies at a short range. I think she's meant to help us compensate for that. Picking out delicious prey from long distance and vanishing into thin air is our specialty, yeah? We don't need no stupid fire support, yeah?
410 was saying that they had no need for a newbie who would only get in their way. However, since 45 thought of herself as a hindrance as well, those words hurt her. But 410 simply didn't want anyone to intrude on her relationship with 45. She thought things were already perfect as it is. I understood what both of them were feeling, and the situation made me uncomfortable. The scar on my ear started acting up and itched. Do you copy, 556? Are you ready?
556 here. I'm fully prepared. Thank you very much.
556 was practicing on the outdoor shooting range. This was her debut as the state-of-the-art weaponry. At a glance, 556 seemed to be on pretty much the same wavelength as 45. She was meek, polite, and utterly incompatible with 410. Blue targeting group. 45, begin transmission.
Roger. Commencing terrain analysis and error correction. 556, data link. Yeah, let's see what you got. 45, data link. Targets identified. Thank you very much. Commencing attack.
556 drew a large, crude lead bow. It didn't even have a hint of the greatness that the golden bow of 410 and 45 possessed. However, elegance has nothing to do with firepower. In direct contrast to 556's gentle looks, the bow spat out a swelling lead serpent towards the 10 odd targets standing in a row. The serpent slithered under the targets as if licking and tasting them, and then cut them down sideways, crushing them to tiny pieces. It was nothing like beautifully sniping and piercing the opponent's weak point with a single golden arrow. Instead, it was an utterly terrifying attack that made use of dozens or even hundreds of lead arrows. That would completely overwhelm any opponent. We couldn't help but stand in awe of the merciless power of this new type of weaponry. Then, I immediately understood. This overwhelming firepower would only set 410's heart alight. There's no doubt, this will be a giant headache. Oh, look, it's starting. 410 is teasing her already. What a pain.
It seems you know your stuff, yeah? Thank you very much. It was all thanks to 45's data link. Not at all. At such a short range, your radar alone would have done just fine, 556. Nevertheless, my firing succeeded thanks to the data provided by you. Thank you very much. You're very welcome.
556 had a calm demeanor and a gentle way of talking. She also had the tendency to express her gratitude indiscriminately. Almost every time she responded to someone, she would thank them.
Well, yeah. Sure, you spread your shots all over the place and hit the target in 15 spots, but all you had to do was just pierce the middle once and the target would have been completely shattered.
Hey, 410, that has no relevance in actual combat. Let 556 do her job. 556, don't pay her any mind. 410 can be somewhat difficult.
No, it's no problem at all, 00. Thank you very much. Thanks to you too, 410. You're right that I could have done better. Thank you very much for pointing that out.
Even though 410 was just finding something to nitpick, 556 smiled gently and thanked her anyway.
Were my skills as great as yours, 410 and 45, I could aim precisely where I needed to, and crush my victims completely without wasting any ammo. But my crude weapon's not designed for such precision. I don't think it's acceptable to be callous on the battlefield. Thank you very much for bringing my attention to that.
Yeah.
410 never expected her rudeness to be met with gratitude. Afterwards, many similar incidents took place, with 410 picking fights about various things and 45 desperately trying to patch things up. And it always ended with 556's words of gratitude. This kept repeating itself until 410 nicknamed 556 the Thanks Bunye and stormed off. This seemed to sour 45's mood completely. 410 walked away sulkily and 45 went after her.
Thanks, Bunya is a horrible nickname.
Not at all. I never expected my teammates to give me a nickname on my very first day. It's an honor. Thank you very much.
Why are you thanking her for that? Is there some reason behind it? 410's rebellious nature was clearly reflected in her speech as well, raising similar questions. For example, that nye at the end. But 556 didn't seem like a troublemaker, and she didn't realize the irony behind her thanking everyone like that. I was curious to learn more about it, and that was when 556 spoke without thanking anyone for the first time.
I'm strong. I got excellent marks from the Chiester headquarters test team. But none of that is something to brag about. The only reason I ever succeeded is thanks to my friends. That's why I will always thank my comrades for supporting me.
I wish 410 followed your example, even if just a little.
But I always get worried that my gratitude doesn't reach them, which causes me problems.
Reach them?
Yes. I'm truly thankful to everyone. But if I don't say it, they might never know about that.
Fuck.
And if it so happens that I'll never meet them again, someone might live their entire life without knowing that there were people who were truly and wholeheartedly grateful to them for their help. Even if such people did exist. We're the soldiers of the Chiester Imperial Guards. All of us. There will certainly come a day when we talk to each other for the last time. That day will come suddenly, unexpectedly. And after that day, I'll no longer be able to thank the others. What would they think of me if such a thing happens? It's sad to think about this. There were countless people she was thankful to, but she could never truly convey that to them. So some of them thought that everyone considers them worthless. One day, you'll lose the opportunity to clear up those kinds of emotions. And it will turn out that your comrade has thought you to be a cold-blooded and heartless being the whole time. I always regret letting an opportunity to convey my gratitude slip past me. Surely they must understand. Words are unnecessary. We understand each other perfectly, so we don't need to say it out loud. I hate hearing things like that. After all, I'm always afraid to lose my next chance to see someone. Today could even be the last day I ever see you, 00. I may not be lucky enough to meet you again tomorrow. So that I don't miss my chance, I always say thanks whenever I can. And to you for listening to me. Thank you very much.
That was a sad conversation. If 45 were to suddenly disappear one day, 410 would no doubt regret being unable to convey her gratitude to her. Or maybe 45 would be forever wrapped in the despair of never hearing a single thank you from her, even though 410 was truly thankful to her.
So, I want to thank you, too.
I will never allow that.
As the leader of the team, I will not allow anyone to die. I will never allow that to happen. That goes for you, too. It disgusts me that you're throwing around those words of gratitude and acting as if we're all going to disappear tomorrow. I will get you rid of that cowardice. Welcome to my team. You're staying with us now.
Thank you very much, 00. Chester 556 reporting for duty.
From that day on, they became the personal guard of Lady Maria. What about you? You should also thank everyone dear to you, while you still have the time.
Oh my god. Fuck, dude. That's seriously... Oh my god. Ah, shit.
Okay. I'm gonna mute that because it's copyrighted. But, yeah. Fuck. Yeah, you guys understand why I had to give you that context of the real world development for that one, because... Jesus Christ, dude. Alright. Well, now that we've done that, that was our final story. So, allow me to get us to our other stuff. And that's that. Before we get into my OC info, our theorizing, and our fan art, allow me once again to thank Olga over on GitHub for putting together this wonderful fan translation patch, and name the other wonderful contributors who made this possible. Dr. Diablo for translating the Witch Hunter's interview tape story, Silverwolf Waltz for helping port translations for Hane and Saku, Queplet for helping port the main episode translations, Derjabe for helping translate images and creating the project logo, and LH Collider for testing help. This project was also dedicated to Tara, who is no longer with us. Rest in peace. And now I can get to the OC stuff. Let me see if I can find something good for the music box, actually. Where is, shoot. Yeah. I'll just turn on FAR for now. All right. So now you'll understand why I was waiting until this stream to tell you anything about my Umineko OC. So here we go. I made her a little profile. Barbados, one of the 72 great demons, said to lead men to hidden treasures enchanted by magicians. Barbados is a very powerful piece of furniture, but is rarely, if ever, utilized. Why is this? She is a total klutz, and can barely control said power. She is graceful, prestigious, and when utilized can be incredibly deadly, but her power always produces undesirable results. This is for several reasons. The arm and wing on the side of her cape do not work, nor does her bandaged eye. She is also missing buttons on her coat and one tassel on her cape, the middle one. She has a bad working relationship with other furniture, such as the Chester sisters, because they view her as an omen of a hopeless mission. She has a particularly bad relationship with a redacted character who we can't get into until literally the end of the series, and they refuse to appear on the same game board as one another. She is known by some of the angelic forces who seem to recognize her from a prior undisclosed conflict, and they seem to view her pitiably as a once admirable opponent who no longer has the same fire in her eyes as she did before. Barbados' specialty is lightning magic, which can be used to incinerate or explode people. Unfortunately, due to the high concentration of energy, it is difficult to control the output, and thus it nearly always causes more damage than intended. She can never properly carry out the Twilights, because she will inevitably kill more players than intended at once.
When her magic is used, her working wing will lift up and her uncovered eye will glow blue. Barbados herself is brusque, withdrawn, and socially rather awkward. She comes off quite abrasively to those who don't know her very well, but this is not because of any actual bad attitude. She just doesn't know how to talk to people. She hasn't tried very hard to get close to anyone because of how often she is perceived as a burden, though she may have had a passing fondness for Chester 556 before her passing. And there you go. That is why I was waiting. So, yeah. What do you guys think? Thanks for listening to my funny OC info dump. I'll be able to tell you more about her at literally the end of the series as well. And now that we have done that, I'm going to go ahead and get to art. And before anybody asks, since people do ask me about this sometimes, yes, you can feel free to draw her if you want to. You can feel free. Do whatever you want. Draw her interacting with the other characters too. That'd be cool. This is me very subtly begging. Okay. But anywho. Now that we've done that, let me go ahead and get the fan art layer prepared. We'll do the theories at the end this time because we don't have that much fan art to go through. Smiles, yes. The answer to that question is yes. Okay, so nothing new in the Tumblr tag, and... Okay, there is one new thing in the Twitter tag. So let me get that real quick. Okay, so... Oh, what's her height? Actually, good question. I didn't really think about it before. If I had to say, I would probably imagine she's on the taller side. You can imagine that she's probably like 6 foot, 6'2", something like that. That's kind of the energy that she gives off in my head. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this fan art. So, fan art. Gotta turn that off and gotta turn this off. Okay, yes. Okay, so I actually have to apologize to the OP of this one. It has a copyrighted song in it, so I would be a little bit paranoid about playing it. Just in case it was hit with a copyright strike thing. But this is in the tag if people want to see it. It's a pretty cool edit, pretty fitting song on Strawberry Mist's blog. Please give it a look. So next, we have this from the Death-Bird on Tumblr. Here's Ava's sins: Pride A, Envy A, Wrath A+, Sloth E, Greed A, Gluttony E, and Lust C. Ava loves to min-max. I was going to give her a rundown, but for fairness sake with Rosa, I'm going to give final stats and rundowns for them during episode 7. I think this is a relatively accurate one. It's a pretty interesting, also very well made as usual. We have this from A-Pining-Tree on Tumblr. Since NezumiVA has declared she's going to explain her own Umineko OC this coming stream, I thought it'd be fun to do such with myself. I took the Maria approach and converted my oldest stuffed animal into witch's furniture. His name is Loopy, and his gender is as androgynous as his species. Here's also a photo of the actual stuffed animal in question and proof that my dog keeps stealing him. This is really cute. I really like this. You did a really good job creating like an original furniture character design. I really like this. We should all make Umineko OCs. We should all have fun making Umineko OCs together. That's my argument. That's my blue truth. Really good stuff. Thanks for submitting this. I really like this. We have this from Dark Fuck Prince on Tumblr, but the U in fuck is an X. I've gotten into Umineko recently because of NezumiVA's streams, and while I like the character designs for the most part, it really bothers me that in the story set in 1986, no one has a perm or shoulder pads. So I put Kyrie in a power suit and gave her some hairspray. I like to think that she also has one of those enormous 80s cell phones that weighs over 10 pounds and dies after a 30-minute phone call. Yeah, I think this is actually a really inspired aesthetic for Kyrie, especially. I would love to see her in this kind of fashion. Honestly, I would love to see more of the family members in this kind of fashion too, but especially for Kyrie, it works really well. It appeals very much to my woman-liking sensibilities. So thank you for this amazing content. You did a fantastic job. We have this from Daniel the Spaniel, who is not here yet, or is not here right now. Couldn't be here live, but oh boy. You guys already saw a preview of this gremlin at the end of the last stream, but you're gonna be seeing more of her pretty soon. Ahem. Whoa, Rat Pat be upon ye. Apologies, I cannot attend the stream this week, but I know I am here in spirit through her. Last stream we saw a cool preview of the Unraveling arc, which ended on her. I know next to nothing about her, but I know that she is the rat. She's silly, but also kind of a brain genius, so we're doing her in the Mat Pat pose, much like Kyrie before. I once again got some help from our own Witch of Foresight, Arahabaki Gaming, who sent me a few sprites. The pose is the same as Kyrie, but is the Mat Pat PNG pose after all, but I made the face more expressive to fit what little I know about her. I drew from Kazuha Tanaka, BERNKASTEL'S actress, specifically for the nose too, since I just can't work with a lot of anime and cartoon noses. I did an alt based on a Golden Fantasia alt. You can use her if you're ever feeling fucked up and Joker-fied. I also did alts with her wearing duct tape like as a bracelet at the behest of KBR in the Discord. I'm certain that won't become relevant later. By the way, I did the lines colored like I did for Kyrie, and it was tricky changing the colors for the alt. Anywho, I look forward to watching the VOD of the bonus stream. As always, much love to everyone. Happy birthday, chat. Thank you so much, Daniel. This is absolutely amazing. We won't be seeing the last of this rat anytime soon. In fact, this is only the beginning. And we have this from the Death Dash Bird on Tumblr as well. Genji is phone. Thanks. You know, you really pulled out all the stops for this one. I can't thank you enough for this amazing edit. Truly, we now know the truth of Umineko. It has been revealed. Fuck! You got it in one! Absolutely terrible. We have to end the streams now. Okay. And finally, last but not leastly, we have this from Normal Gay Bro on Twitter. The other cousins all get casual outfits, so I thought Battler should have one too. I tried to emulate the weird fashion in Umineko, and might have made him too modern. Oh well. I like it though. I think he rocks it. I like the green jacket. I like the necklace. Battler strikes me as the type who would wear this kind of stuff if, even if it didn't exist at the time. Like, I'm sure if he saw it later, he'd be like, yep, that's me. Why are you staring at me?
That's not the last one.
It's not?
No.
What?
Check your Discord.
Okay. What the fuck is this?
Made fan art. Be fucking grateful.
Oh, okay. I see. That's Austin's art. Oh, okay. I didn't, like, at first, I didn't realize that it was supposed to be a face. I was just like, what are all these shapes?
They're looking at you. They're a weird fucking chair that looks at you. Stares at you.
Wonderful. thank you so much for your magnum opus. I'm sorry I couldn't understand it immediately. It was
No,
just,
that's
you know,
fine. It
it's
takes
brilliant.
time to
Its
understand
brilliance
the
was quite blinding. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think also, if I'm not mistaken, somebody did put something in the server, actually. So let me go ahead and make sure. Yes, June put some art in the server. Yes, this. Get his ass, Battler. Destroy him. Tear him apart. Bring this Scaly to his end. And how fitting, because next week we are going to be starting episode 5 of Umineko, which is in fact titled End of the Golden Witch. I hope you will all join me and have a fantastic time. But until then, thanks so much for joining me for this extra stream of funny little short stories. I hope you enjoyed yourself. As always, I will see you next time. Thank you for stopping by. Bye, everybody. Oh, no, wait. No, shit. Sorry. I forgot. Theories. Yeah. Hold on. I'll turn on Curie map pat. I'm so sorry. I forgot that we were doing things out of order. I got confused. Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Talk about your theories. I will mute my mic for a second while I get out food. Actually, though, let's change up the music real quick. Let me see. What do I wanna? Kyrie, you're in the way. No, I don't want that. Yeah, that'll do. Okay. All right. I'm gonna mute my mic for a second. But you guys, give your theories. Okay, let's unmute for a second to read this one from Daniel. Jessica referencing Marisa Kirisame from Toho possibly has some greater meaning. Marisa's theme was originally called Love-Colored Magic, which has always been a strange name. However, I think Umineko explains this. Imagine a black cloth with red dots. Under green or blue light, the dots would be invisible. Only with red light could the dots be seen. Thus, a spot being colored red means that without red, it cannot be seen. So in that context, what is love-colored magic? Ooh. That's actually very interesting. I like that. Thanks for pointing that out, because I didn't remember that, actually, about Marisa. Even though she's my favorite, I'm such a fake fan. But... can I please get this fucking ketchup cart open? Why is it so difficult? Please, God. I said ketchup. Well, you heard wrong.
I'm living in the Baron
my
State universe.
good bitch, you're wrong.
Jack, can you gaslight Marcy into being
No,
correct?
no, shut up. Red truth, I said ketchup. Let's see. Iconic Laser asks, hey, without spoilers, can you say if you've given consideration how you'll handle the format of A section from episode 8? I'm not entirely sure which one you're referring to. If you're talking about something from the manga, though, I am not going to be putting the manga stuff in here. Okay, Gona's working on a sin theory right now. I'm gonna wait for that though, because you're not done with it yet. I'll expand upon my Beatrice as an illness theory. Ooh, we've seen Ava and Kinzo die of some disease, and if Beatrice represents an illness, it'd fit with how Battler dies alone on the island of Beatrice. Holy shit, Atropos, that's such a fucking cool theory. I actually really, really like that. I really like that theory. That's really good. Circles do not appear when they are dead or trapped, and I discarded Rosa and Maria, although she might be in on it, as the circles also happened in the Goda story. Also, the curses about other servants being harmed or cursed by Beato are probably fake in order to get people to believe and behave. Possibly. But do you think someone as serious as Genji would pull like a bunch of funny pranks on Goda? Do you think Genji with his fucking like, with his total straight face, like walks into the kitchen and paints a goofy cartoon circle on the wall? I'm not saying rule that out or anything, by the way. I'm being playful with you. I'm not trying to antagonize you. I'm just saying, like, you know, I'm giving you a little bit of a push and pull to deal with here. I can't let you remain unchallenged. I have to act as the witch in this game for all of you. Let's see. Pick up something on the Ronove equals Genji as well as Kumasawa being Virgilia. Perhaps there were like characters that human Beatrice made up while in the other mansion. Possibly. Theory that's an actual shot in the dark. If our Battler isn't the OG Battler, that means that Giga Chad Battler, but cooler, will show up in episode 7, call out Battler, and solve everything. Yeah, you know, like the cooler Battler, like the yearbook photo thing. Battler, the cooler Battler. Battler 2, this time with more Battler. Like human Beatrice was served by Genji and Kumasawa when she was alive and made up stories of them being a demon and a witch to play with them. Possibly. Let's see. Is Gona's... Okay, Gona, you're still in the middle of your one, so I'm gonna wait. Okay, Daps. I think did you start that earlier? I have a theory, but it's not the best and based only on speculation. That is totally fine. Basically, I think Canon is really sus. In the first episode, he was the first to find the pentagram or whatever in the first Twilight. It's also pretty weird that he disappeared in 2 episodes. Feels random. Yeah, that's one thing that definitely does require pointing out. Canon's body vanished in episode 2, and it was also never seen, but it was guaranteed by Beatrice in episode 4. I wonder why that is. What's happening with Canon? What's going on with his body? Considering the servants have been softly hinted to know there have been multiple game boards, I think it's fair to assume that there's something going on. Fair enough. Although, I believe it's only Is it only Canon and Shannon that say stuff about the previous boards? I don't think any of the other servants say anything about it. I can't remember. I think it's just them, though. Want to bring up my totally real Genji trained his voice and is so talented he can pretend to be other people over the phone theory. Yeah. Master voice actor Genji. He knows the craft just as well as I do. He is my arch nemesis in the voice acting field. Every time I go to audition for a part, what do you know? Genji is already there and he's already gotten the part. Fucking asshole. Yeah. I find it incredibly sus that Battler never sees Canon die directly. He either needs to be told by someone else that he died or told via the Red Truth. Literally, yeah, like in episode 1, he sees Canon, like, bleeding, and then he, like, hears about the stuff that happened, and then literally, like, right after that, at the end of, like, at the beginning of the next chapter, he's like, I heard later that Canon died. Well, shit, I mean, great evidence. Just Canon and Shannon have said it so far, I believe. It seems reasonable enough to assume Genji might as well, though Kumasawa seems more questionable. And it's possible. We don't know for sure. Posted in the Discord a few times. I wanted to point out in case you didn't see. I finished that Red Truth list doc. Yes, I did see it. I kept forgetting about it. Sorry, like because I kept seeing it like in the middle of the night when I was like dead tired or like drunk or something else. But if you want to get me that link again later, then I can pin it. Thinking a lot about Beato and Battler, I think one of them living necessitated the other dying. Something about inevitability and mutually exclusive existences. Ooh, interesting. I also really like that. Yeah, that's totally fine. You can feel free to do that, Care Bear and Ross. Okay, I think Gona is done with that theory, so let me scroll back up for this. So I have a theory about what Battler's sin could be. If we believe that his sin was committed while he was still living with the Ushiromiyas, that leaves a small portion of the timeline this event could have taken place in. I believe that one of the events that was mentioned to have happened 10 years ago was related. I think Battler was involved with the servants that was injured 10 years ago. I think a child Battler unintentionally did something that caused the servant to fall downstairs, which caused the other servants to start believing in Beatrice, giving her power. I think either no one realized Battler's involvement or someone did, but it was hidden. To avoid controversy and the Ushiromiyas possibly being sued. That's a really interesting theory. I quite like the thought that you're putting into that. I like that you're using context from surrounding events to try to come up with something. I really like that one. I won't say anything else about it, but I really like it. Gwendolyn, serious theory, perhaps because the servants view themselves as furniture and not humans, there's a way to bypass the person limit because they don't view themselves as humans but furniture. I wonder if I should say anything to confirm or deny that. I probably shouldn't. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get too into the whole, like, specifications and Red Truth stuff and, like, all that. Yeah, I'm going to willfully keep quiet on that one. Still holding on to the one theory I posted in the comments of last stream that there's some catch to Lambda debunking everything Battler said in the Discharger Tea Party. I don't know. I mean, she's pretty explicit. She's pretty explicit about what things are not true and all that, but who knows? That's one of the most painful things about the Red Truth is whenever it's used to leave very little room for error. Atropos is an endemic disease. Nah, no. Oh wait, you didn't even mean to say that. Wow, what a cell phone. Beatrice did say the names of every human on the island and did include all the servants, right? Yes, she does. She does include the servants among them, I'm pretty sure. Alternative on my Beato illness theory is that maybe she's more of a land feature. On second thought, that sounds incredibly stupid. The Gulf of Beatrice. The archipelago of Beatrice. Remember, even if Beato doesn't explicitly say something in red, it could still be important contextually. As an Umineko old head, there's quite a few important things that she says that aren't in red. Also, yes, absolutely true. Okay. Alright, let's go normal Gaybro. I have a long one, so I wound up missing the whole stream, but for now I'm sticking with my time loop Battler's Kinzo theory. At the start of the VN, Beatrice already knows Kinsler's Kinsler and starts the game kind of to fuck around with young Kinzo. Battler obviously has no idea who she is at this point. At the end of episode 4, I don't believe that Battler dies. Maybe I'm just a silly, silly boy. That's what I'm going with. I don't really think he'd have anyone else to talk about his experience. Like, he could talk to Maria about it, but I think their experiences of Beato are different enough that he finds it somewhere between unhelpful and frustrating. So eventually he's going crazy, wondering if anything he remembered even actually happened, and starts researching the magic his granddad was into, not realizing they're the same person. Something sends him back in time. I'm going to do what my boy Battler told me and call this unknown method X. Anyway, after that, the now in the past, Beato notices someone she knows fuck all about, spending all this time obsessing over summoning her, and decides to pay him a visit. Now that Kinsler has a confirmation that what he saw was real, he goes on a tear and is a man possessed, losing sight of his original goal, thus the homunculus stuff. Where did I get cut off? Okay. And Maria being so unhelpful is in the past of Kinsler's timeline is why Kinzo doesn't like her now, and then after losing the homunculus, he's fully turned and now wanting to revive her by any means necessary. And then Battler's sin is really a Kinzo sin that happened, and Beato is bad that young Kinsler doesn't remember. I think that's everything. I might have more thoughts after I watched this VOD since I missed everything. You see, normal Gaybro, I like how much thought that you've put into this theory, and in terms of the thought and work that you've put into the theory, I like it a lot. I like that you were giving this much thought. I like the theory on that basis. The core of the theory, the substance of the theory. I don't like it. And that's not me saying that you did a bad job. You did a great job. It's just like that if I was told like straight up in red text that that's what was happening, I would be like, damn, for me that sucks. But that would just be my personal opinion on the story at that point. Let's see. The one slur, but like the Kinsler. No. We can't do that. We can't be doing that. We can't be doing the Kinzo one slur. We can't be doing that. Okay. I don't think there's anything else that needs to be covered now. I don't mean to rush off. I just I wanna eat. But and I also have some things I have to get done before the night is out. No, you didn't. No. All right. So, anywho, I have to go now. So I will actually see you all of you guys next week for Quinn with the 15 pounds on the tail end of episode 2, so dropping another dono. Might do one for each episode since they're like audiobook quality at least. Not sorry for leaving long ass thought trails in all VODs. No, I'm a big fan of the fact that you do this. I love reading them. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Okay. This time, for real this time, we will see you, what? Mark Zero? Don't take the voice that I did for the child too seriously, or don't try to scrounge context for it. I was intentionally trying to do the Beato voice to cover up any other potential identity. But yeah, okay.
Wait,
What?
you didn't ask me for my theory.
What? You can't have a theory. You know what's going on.
But I have a theory about it, though.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna walk into the Ushiromiya Manor and give Beato a big kiss.
Uh-huh.
And that's it. Everything else implodes around us and turns into a big heart, and nothing is bad ever again.
Thanks for your valuable contribution.
But Marcy, it's about love. Without love, it cannot be seen. I see Beato.
All right, buddy.
I see her.
Okay. Thanks.
My second theory is that Gear 5 movie comes in and turns Kinzo into a can of kidney beans, and then everybody cheers.
You know, I'm a fan of that one, actually. I actually like that one a lot. All right. Okay. Okay, that's it. Austin will have to fight many people in chat for the opportunity to wed Beatrice.
Nah, I'd win.
Until next time, everybody, thank you so much, as always, for watching. I will see you next week for End of the Golden Witch, episode 5. Baby, let's fucking go. Okay, bye.